Chapter 35. I was still upstairs, taking a nap. Singe invited herself into my room. She poked me with a stiffened finger. Impossible. It couldn't be. Not a cross-species as divergent as redheads and artificially intelligent rats. Ouch. Once was enough.
Drag your lazy ass out and go downstairs. People are waiting. Their time is valuable too. Look at this mess. You didn't do anything.
I made the bed, she snorted derisively. And I considered the possibility of changing the lock on the front door. I grumped, sourly enough for her to take me serious for a second. That might get me some peace.
I despair of seeing you grow mature and responsible.
I don't. It isn't on my agenda.
Be that as it may, you need to go downstairs. Otherwise, those people will drink all the beer and eat everything in the pantry.
A blatant provocation of my natural inclination toward frugality.
The correct word is parsimony. But if you prefer the illusion of thrift, indulge.
I was out of practice. I had to settle for being proud of me because I did not let my frustration overcome my self-control. I swung my feet off my bed, planted them firmly on the floor. Look at me. I'm on my way. Now would be a good time for you to get yourself a head start. Clever Singe realized this was not the best time for further nagging. Maybe she got private advice from the dead man. She scooted out. I saw Dean leave the kitchen with refreshments as I descended the stairs. He staggered under the weight of the provisions. An absence of cups, mugs, plates, milk, and sugar bowls suggested that this was not his first run. The natural parsimony that Singe had mentioned kicked in as she had intended. A dull roar of conversation came from the dead man's room. I followed Dean, wondering if I hadn't made some mad long-term mistake when I took Singe in. The dead man's room was wall-to-wall with bodies and faces. There was Saucerhead Tharp showing a touch of gray, with an extra layer of muscle around his midriff. There was Singe's brother Pound Humility, better known as John Stretch, gaudy in the latest Ratman style. John Salvation was there, looking cocky and prosperous. Why the hell was he here? Looking for an angle for a new play? Sarge, one of Morley's oldest henchmen, stood alone, vaguely confused. Playmate looked awful. He had lost 100 pounds. He was as gaunt as a man dying of starvation. There were others, in disguise, maybe to avoid being identified by watchers outside. Belinda had done a creditable job of turning herself into a slim, handsome dandy with a dark dash of a mustache, reminding me of the chap squirreled away in my old office. General Westman Block looked like a wino who had wandered in unnoticed while the door was open. He looked confused. He was not well known, but everyone here had run into him before. No one seemed troubled. There were people I did not recognize. I took it on faith that the dead man needed them. I looked for a special one with red hair and came up with a count one short. Singe saw me checking.
I sent word. Maybe she'll come later.
I got no chance to respond. My own respite from recognition ended. People swarmed me. Saucerhead said,
"Man, I didn't hardly know you. All dressed weird and shit."
John Salvation stroked his pointy little beard, which wasn't the same color as his hair, and said something about me having adapted my fashion flair to something showing a distinct feminine influence. A third kind soul mentioned that I was developing a pot. Someone else said, "That happens when you don't got to work for a living no more."
Garrett never did do no more work than it took to keep from starving. He just had a run of luck.
Stated with a touch of envy. Like me, Tharp worked as little as possible, but his luck never shined. Too often he had nothing more than the clothes on his back. Chapter 36. Amongst those people who stayed quiet and didn't move much were Sarge and Playmate. A good look at Play left me shocked. Not only had the man lost a huge amount of weight, he stooped to where he was no taller than me. He looked like he had to deal with bad chronic pain. He does. Had I been aware of his situation, I would have made something good happen for him, long ago. Without you here, these people never visit. I remain unaware of what is happening in their lives. On a positive note, I have gotten Miss Contigue to send for the healer who worked on Mr. Dotes. Clever. 2 birds. Probably just one. Playmate's cancer appears to be advanced. I could say nothing more out loud. I shook hands, slapped backs, exchanged hugs. I asked John Salvation where his shark woman was. He astonished me by reporting, "I don't think she was invited."
I do things like that these days. You'll find me more independent than the remora you remember.
You came anyway?
I blurted.
He had been called the remora because he swam in the slipstream of his girlfriend Winger, betraying no personality of his own.
I expect she'll turn up anyway. She'll be sure the lack of an invite was an oversight.
I looked over at Singe. She was doing a credible job of being the lady of the house, seeing to our guests while being smoothly sociable. Even the prejudiced were unable to consider her as just a rat woman. Neither Belinda in disguise nor General Block in disguise did any socializing. With the exception of brief exchanges with John Stretch, neither spoke to anyone. The more I looked around, the bigger the crowd seemed to be. I kept spotting people I didn't know. I saw John Stretch associates helping Dean with the refreshments. I saw people I did know but would not expect at a let's decide what we'll do party themed round Morley Dotes. Singe's office was open to the crowd too. People drifted back and forth in search of conversation. Morley himself had been declared off-limits. 3 of John Stretch's worst villains were in there and had permission to hurt people who wouldn't take a hint. There were exceptions, one-on-one and closely watched. Sarge, Saucerhead, Belinda, me. Once I lost my appeal to the mob, Belinda and the General drifted closer. Block shook my hand, told me I was looking good, then said how wonderful it was that I was showing some civic interest again. I kept a straight face and did not ask when he thought that I ever demonstrated any civic-mindedness. He asked,
Can we slip into your kitchen for a second? This isn't private enough.
"How can I say no?"
Though there wouldn't be much privacy back there either, what with Dean and his rat-folk assistants underfoot.
"This may be important. Do not waste time fencing, Garrett. I sense the imminent arrival of someone who may be Miss Contigue's healer. He is very closed. Also, the population of loafers has begun to grow out on Macunado Street." We stepped into the kitchen, conveniently as Dean and his helpers trained out with trays that looked like each ratman was carrying his own weight in drinks and treats. I began to suffer grim thoughts about how the dead man better not be only plundering minds. He had best be bringing the right people together to talk about what needed doing. And he had better be putting the right ideas into the right minds while he was at it. Because this was going to bankrupt me if it went on for long. I drew a mug, asked, "Fill you up?" Head shakes. I settled at the overloaded table. "Talk to me."
The General seemed disappointed. He had changed. The weary but determined middle-aged functionary had become a worn-out elder bureaucrat. Garrett, I don't know what to say. I hear you've changed. I'm told you've turned into a model subject of the Carantine Crown.
Pardon me?
You were always a stubborn obstructionist asshole. You had no interest whatsoever in forwarding the welfare of the commonality.
I always was.
What the hell? You mean I wasn't excited about forwarding the cause once Deal Railway defined it for me?
Do not argue. Accept. From his viewpoint, he is stating 100% truth. Meaning he got to define the welfare of the commonality. I love you too. No two people see everything the same. You know that. At the moment, it is important that we not antagonize our allies simply for the pleasure of being difficult. Hang on. Even my partner thinks I refuse to cooperate with the tin whistles and hold back information just to tweak them?
Garrett, you here, or have you died and gone to hell?
I'm sorry. I was in the throes of what might have been a grand epiphany. On the other hand, it might have been breakfast backing up. What do you need?
We guardsmen have a morale problem that is becoming a moral problem. Exactly. All the good we've done could start to unravel if this mess keeps on the way it has been.
I hope that's not contagious. You lost me.
Will you?
He glared in exasperation. Ever since we met, you've accused me of stonewalling or deliberately holding things up. You were right when it was in the interest of my client. Maybe 1 time in 10. I knew why you were barking then. This time I don't. All I'm doing is protecting a friend who came within a frog's feather of getting himself stabbed to death, in case somebody tries to finish the job. I've been told by half the people here and some who aren't that this is all I'm allowed to do. It's all I intend to do, and at least one woman doesn't want me doing that much.
Touchy. Why do you have all these people here then?
Damn straight. I don't. I didn't invite them. Did you get an invitation from me?
No, But this is your house.
It's a place where I'm staying because I thought Morley would be safer here than anywhere else. He gave me a dubious look. The first I knew about this was just a while ago when Singe woke me up from a perfectly beautiful nap and told me to come help.
You always blow a creditable cloud of smoke. We've been warned off this case.
Again, what do you want? You're going to let it slide? You lost people.
Garrett, can the shit. For the rest of us, this isn't about Morley Dotes. About him and his problems, I don't much care. Gladly. Is he up for an interview?
Tell him that. He's in a coma.
Too bad. But his testimony isn't critical. What is critical would be our incorruptibility. When we started out, Deal and I were promised that no one would be above the law, not even the royal family. Prince Rupert stood behind us when we stepped on sensitive toes. But this time he's telling us to back off. We have to let it go. The same word has gone out to the syndicate.
Who has the drag to bully the crown prince?
Exactly. We mean to find out.
You're not going to back off.
We're going to be less obviously vigorous, unobtrusive, but the more pressure we get, the more we'll dig. Same pertains for the syndicate, I suspect. You push the Contigues, they push back.
You think dread of an explosion in production of dead bodies might be why the prince wants to stand down?
No. I think somebody on the hill, somebody who can make even Rupert shit his knickers, wants the thing left alone. I'll even go so far as to guess that the hill as a whole wants it left alone.
Because the villains might be some of them.
In part, but more because if we poke our noses in very far, we're likely to turn up all sorts of things they don't want the public to know.
I poured myself some tea. Dean was outside the kitchen door telling me to hurry up. He had to get back to work. I raised a questioning eyebrow. Block said,
I'll stipulate that most hill folk are as distressed by the warehouse as the rest of us, but they want to handle it themselves. And next time somebody wants to shut the guard out, next time somebody wants to handle justice privately, so let them.
Block had a fierce case of the same disease that ruled Railway. Most of the time it did more good than bad. All I can do is wish you luck. I'll be right here babysitting. He didn't believe a word. Sometimes there's no point trying to communicate with some people. They live everything inside their heads. Outside things that don't fit get ignored. Westman Block was a good man. I liked him. But he could frustrate me like almost no one else but Tinny. Come on in, Dean.
Dean burst in and got cracking. He was determined to render me destitute before the sun went down.
Chapter 37. Belinda isolated me, in with Morley amongst the deaf rat men.
They insist that we back off, that we have to let this alone.
They? We?
Don't play word games.
I'm not. You know what I mean. Nobody has told me not to do anything, and the only we I'm part of is me and Morley.
Then I'd have to ask why most everyone you know by name is here. I even saw that poisoner Kolda a minute ago.
He's not a poisoner. Distracted. I don't know why you're all here. I had nothing to do with that. Like I told the general, she didn't believe me either. Someday I'll make a huge score because nobody will take me at face value. I could loot the Royal Mint, then run around yelling about how it was me that done it. I did know what was going on. Singe and the dead man had cooked a plan to investigate out of my house. They would use people we had worked with in the past. I found it disconcerting that they weren't troubled by a hill interest potent enough to make Prince Rupert back off. Old Bones must have seen a way to get away with defying that which must not be defied. This was shaping up to be what I'd had in mind when I'd visited with the Windwalker, who was not around today. I asked, "Is that healer ever going to come?"
Are you kidding? After what I paid him before.
And he isn't worried about my friend in the other room?
He doesn't know. I told him you spilled the medicine. That will want more. But first he has to take another look at Morley. I'm pretty sure there's something more wrong than what he thought before.
And if he's a villain?
You'll do? We'll know that straight off, won't we?
We contemplated our mutual friend. Morley looked as peaceful as a man in a coffin. I kept wondering why it was taking the healer so long to show. He is out there. All the traffic makes him nervous. He does not like that but cannot shake his greed. He will come into the trap eventually. My impatience faded. I just worried about Morley, till my mind wandered off to Factory Slide. An unexpected voice asked, "Garrett, are you all right?" I looked up. "Gilby, Manville Gilby and his recently acquired wife Heather were framed in the doorway. Gilby was the number 2 man in the Weeder brewing empire. He seemed concerned. "I'm all right. We haven't seen you at the brewery lately. When I heard about your open house, I thought we'd stop by and see what your situation is." It's marginal despair. I glanced at Morley. "What do you need to know?" "Nothing, now. We've been circulating long enough to get a flavor. Max will stand behind you." Of course, because Max Weeder didn't like folks involved in illegal experimental sorcery. Several of his family were murdered by shape-shifting things created in abandoned beer vats. Max wouldn't mind exterminating the whole tribe of sorcerers. Heather Gilby was usually more forthcoming and social naturally than Manville, but today she just smiled and kept her mouth shut. "Take care doing what you need to do, Garrett. We value you." He eyed Morley, then the ratmen with illegal weaponry. He knew Morley. Morley's restaurant was across from Max Weeder's World Theater, where Heather was manager. Heather gave me a slight smile before she stepped out of sight. I liked her fine, but she was high on Tinny's list. Tinny had acted in several John Salvation plays. She had gotten a big head, a huge head. Heather wasted no time letting her know that her talents might be better appreciated elsewhere. A fierce stroke, since the World is the only theater where female actresses are not expected to have other commerce with audience members. Tinny is not accustomed to failure and has almost no capacity for accepting criticism. Chapter 38. I had some quiet time with my friend, then, sharing the space with John Stretch's goons. I stared hard, willing Morley to come back. Belinda stepped in.
No change?
None. There's definitely something not right.
We should learn a lot from the healer.
Team at your session.
Sure he doesn't know about old bones? Believe it or not, Garrett, almost nobody outside your acquaintance does, particularly since you've been inactive for so long.
Things do get forgotten quickly in TunFaire. Maybe that's an urban survival skill.
The dead man is barely a spook story. He's something kids scare each other with. Nobody really believes that he exists.
Interesting.
I have to go soon, but not right away. I want to be here for the healer.
If he ever gets here.
He'll show up. He might not come inside if he doesn't see me.
He would, unless he could shake off Logar mind control. The healer is close now but is very uncomfortable. He is not a people person. Belinda did not react. He had not included her. I told her, "His nibs thinks the healer is finally here." Old Bones would avoid direct contact till it was too late for the man to get away. And, maybe, Belinda would go on believing her own thoughts were inviolate. I felt a tickle of Logar amusement. I told Belinda, "Your man is really nervous. Get him before he spooks. And, let's don't jump him before we lock the door behind him." I got a hint of something like the old saw about teaching Grandma to suck eggs. At the same time, Old Bones used a gentle influence to move our guests into his room or Singe's office. Moments later, I said, "Doctor, there you are. I'm getting really worried about my friend." The healer gripped his bag in front of his chest. He stared at the 3 ratmen. He looked like he had just been sentenced to hang. "Are you all right?" His mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out. Belinda filled the doorway behind him. She did not keep her expression benign. I said, "Don't mind these guys. They're here to protect Morley's." "You spilled the medicine I gave you before?" "Yep. Fumbled it when I was opening it. It hit the floor and rolled under the bed. It was empty before I could fish it out." He relaxed slightly. I grinned. "No, not really. That was a lie. We thought having you think that would help us get you here, you villain." His eyes got big. He managed to turn even paler. His attempt to flee failed totally. Belinda didn't move. "Oh yes, he is guilty. The medication he provided was designed to keep Mr. Dotes unconscious. Our villain is greedy, but he is not a murderer." I told the little man in black, Friend, you have reached a crossroads. This is the pivotal moment of your life, and it could be fatal. Take care. He believes he still has options. The lady behind you isn't happy with you. She paid you to heal this man. You poisoned him instead. The gentleman behind her is General Block of the Civil Guard. He wants to ask you some questions too. Easy. Stop pressing. I have to get control of his body functions, especially his heartbeat. He could die if I do not. I started to ask a question. Silence. His heart is about to burst. I'd heard of that in mice and horses, but never a human being. I raised a hand to Block and Belinda. We had to let the dead man work his magic. He was prepared for entrapment by a master hypnotist who was unaware that he might encounter someone like me. I have undone the commands driving him toward heart failure, but I have failed to discover who placed those commands. Inspiration. Belinda, why did you choose this particular healer?
I went to the Children of the Light. I asked for someone. Then I proved that I could afford them.
Maybe that inspiration was halfway a dud. How long did it take them to decide to help you?
Oh, several days, more than 3.
You went to them before you came to me, which didn't hurt my feelings. My skills as a healer are slightly inferior. This one was given the assignment by lot. He was suborned between his first and second visits to Mr. Dotes. A great deal of money was involved. He has done wicked things before. This is the first time his perfidy has been detected. The old devil was gleeful.
You have a life-saving opportunity, healer. That life being your own.
The dead man stabilized the healer's vitals, denying him the escape of death. I'm sure he plundered the man's memories at the same time. I said, I'm feeling generous. I'm going to offer you a chance to save 2 lives. Playmate was asleep in a chair in the dead man's room. I would make this greedy idiot heal him after he turned Morley around. This is remarkably difficult. I cannot negate the full regime of post-hypnotic commands. What we want we will have to get quickly. The self-destruct sequence has only been stalled. I may not be able to hold it off indefinitely. I looked at Morley, at the healer, at Morley again, and could not find in myself any sympathy for the healer. Chapter 39. I called General Block back. He had drifted away, seduced by the siren of free food and beer. Plus, for the moment, he was a celebrity. Even he craves admiration. See if Calder is still here.
The poisoner?
He's a chemist, an apothecary, a natural extracts guy. Why was I making excuses for Calder? Because I kind of liked him. He did try to poison me once upon a time.
Whatever.
Never mind. Skipper, find Singe. Tell her I need Calder. One of the ratmen left. While I waited, I filled Block in on what we had dredged out of the healer while he was away enjoying his back patting. He was aghast. And now he's doing his damned best to die before we can get anything else, while he's practically begging old Bones to save his ass. Block lost color. He swallowed a few times. That one of the Children of the Light could be so twisted was a shocker, apparently. In this mean city we should find nothing darkly amazing, even in the age of police protection.
He's awake. I thought he was asleep. I was promised that he was in a full, deep sleep.
I got it then. It wasn't the twisted healer. It was the dead man. I laughed. Somebody lied. But not to worry. He doesn't poke around inside people just because he can. And when he does, he passes on only what is germane. In this case, what this man knows about what was done to Morley Dotes. Meantime, we're going to lose him if he carries out the hypnotic instructions driving him.
That can't be. I know a little about hypnotism. We use it in interrogations. You can't make somebody kill himself.
Old Bones tells me you can if your victim doesn't know that's what he's doing. You make him think he's doing something else. Whoever prepared this man was a genius. He started with a typical healer and made the man over into an assassin without triggering any serious conflict. And quick enough to prep him for Morley. Pay attention. We have established that this man has committed other crimes. I suspect that similar mental manipulations were used on Jimmy Two Steps. There is a connection. Information in General Block's mind, compared with facts in the healer's, makes that seem likely. The puppet master evidently agrees with the Alcar about you. You need to be kept away. You are a wild card. The cascade of events so far suggests that they might be right. Interesting. I began making further connections. Yes, the attack on you and Miss Tate took place soon after Miss Contig decided to ask you to protect Mr. Dotes. Then, on successive nights, attempts were made to get you at fire and ice. Me, not Morley. You, I am certain. Mr. Dotes would be useful collateral damage but would be neutralized anyway once he started his medication. You, however, have a history of stumbling around and causing avalanches of unexpected consequences. It is what you do, particularly in the mind opposing us. This is someone we've run into before. I expect only obliquely, if at all, with us taking no notice. Aha! I broke the code. I found the key to the sequence. Huh? The healer. I can save him. I have cracked the progression of suggestions laid into his mind. Good. Once you have him calmed down and set to go, turn him loose on Playmate. Accept no excuses. Of course.
Interesting private chat?
Yes. He figured out how to save our healer assassin from himself.
Excellent. I do have some questions for that man.
Go through his nibs. Otherwise you'll be wasting your time. Block did follow. He nodded.
This isn't the first bad guy to turn up with no notion why he did what he did, and no idea who told him to do it.
Intriguing. The general is reflecting on thefts of chemicals that turned up in that warehouse. Bring them around, General. Let old Bones chat them up. Meantime, how about you see the Children of the Light about this guy? They might be able to shed some light. He refused to acknowledge my clever wordplay.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Deal will be all over that. We wouldn't even be breaking any recent rules. This would be a separate case. An attempted murder possibly connected to successful murders that had no obvious connection with a warehouse in Elf Towns.
I started to ask if the guard had canvassed the neighborhood. I got a caution from the dead man. That had been ruled out by Prince Rupert. How about hunting the resurrection men? Has that been disallowed?
Not yet, but they're damned hard to find. They've been told to lie low and keep quiet by somebody who scares them more than we do.
Block smirked. That figured. Belinda leaned into the doorway, which was the best she could do because of the crowd in the room already.
I got Colda. It took a while. We had to run him down.
Block had arrived looking for one thing. He went out with something else in mind, but happy and eager to get to work. The dead man would give him additional information. Soon the Alcar would be a bustle. No one but the director and the commanding general would know that the guard was violating the spirit of their orders. Colda joined me in with Morley. He was nervous. Our history, while limited, left him no reason to think that he was in a good position. I told him, "You're an expert in chemicals and exotic herbs. My friend, here, has been poisoned. It's not lethal, it just keeps him from waking up. And it makes him heal really slow." Colda gave me a big-eyed, frightened look but didn't say anything. The pudgy character with Dollar Dan's paw tangled in his collar delivered the poison. That was given to him, along with a lot of money, by a third party, after Miss Contig engaged him to heal my friend. She gave him a lot of money too. Colda had a worse flair for fashion than me. He couldn't keep his hair combed or his shirt tucked in. He was always nervous. His social skills were negligible. But he was a genius in his field. And he owed me. I had insisted, to Block, that Colda wasn't a poisoner. But he did poison me, once upon a time. I'm still breathing and complaining. The evidence suggests that I found the antidote. I said, "Healer, give this man the bottle you brought today. Then Dollar Dan will take you across the hallway. Your redemption begins when you start work on Playmates." I understand. His voice was slow and toneless. He dug out a little bottle identical to the one he had given us during his visit to Fire and Ice. I asked the heir, what are the chances this bottle contains the same ingredients as the first one? Indeterminate. 10 seconds passed. Clever catch, Garrett. He did in fact consult a contact after he heard that you needed more medicine. The excuse we provided was of a sort to excite the suspicions of a paranoid supplier. We do still have the original filter. Kolda can compare them. The healer surrendered his new bottle. Dollar Dan hustled him across the hall. I gave Kolda the original bottle. This stuff goes 3 drops to a 2-quart pitcher of water.
Potent, then.
With commendable caution, he unstopped each bottle and took a gentle sniff.
This is vanilla, a touch of clove oil, another of castor oil, in wood alcohol. There is something more that I don't recognize. This includes everything in the other bottle, with less of the unknown odor and more of something that smells like death.
Definitely different formulas then.
Yes, but subtly. Both would be deadly, in different ways.
I asked the heir, what do you think? You may be on the right trail. Neither oil of clove nor oil of castor ought to dissolve in cold water, but their presence, with the vanilla, might be there to suggest that the concoction is medicinal. The poison has to be something that is effective in amounts so small. The beans from which castor oil is rendered, they contain a poison so deadly that infinitesimal amounts can kill scores. The poisoner's dilemma has always been how to remain unpoisoned himself, then how to disperse the poison in an effective manner. It would appear that someone has found a way to use it, one customer at a time. Ah, friend Kolda has begun thinking along the same lines. I will spare you the admiration he has for the genius of his fellow chemist.
Someone has done the impossible. Someone has achieved an unbelievable breakthrough.
I asked, what do you mean?
Someone has found a way to extract the poison from castor beans.
You dud. That's been known for years. What nobody does know is how to use the poison safely. Kolda gave back an unhappy grunt. He might not be as ignorant as we hoped. He was ignorant about the dead man. I'm not sure I approve, but last time we crossed paths, Old Bones added some trapdoors to Kolda's memory. Kolda will never remember anything he learns while visiting us. I was beginning to think my partner wasn't as swell as I claimed he was. I felt a touch of amusement from outside.
Chapter 41. With Kolda and the healer gone to see the dead man, there wasn't much for me to do with Morley. And it was almost time for the rat women. I decided to cultivate my atrophied social skills, but only a handful of guests remained. The healer, Kolda, and Playmate were in with the dead man. The rest were in Singe's office. John Salvation was talking up his next play. I checked the corners and under Singe's desk. Still no winger. How did he manage? The dead man's special student, Penny Dreadful, hadn't fled when I turned up. There had been enough witnesses for her to feel safe. My, how she had grown. You notice these things when you're male and still alive. Morley's longtime associate Sarge was there too. He looked lost. He looked like somebody just poisoned his kitten. I snagged the last available chair. Beckoned Sarge, indicated my willingness to share the contents of a pitcher clearly in need of refurbishing. Sarge was slumped on a chair in a corner, not occupied by Saucerhead Tharps or Singe's office furniture. He brightened slightly and dragged his chair over.
How is the restaurant managing without our boy?
We don't need no barkin' from Morley to make dat work, Garrett. We been into racket so long the business rolls on like a mill wheel turnin'. But he's our friend too, and none of us know what we'll do if he don't make it tradis.
Belinda has probably made you crazy trying to figure out what Morley was up to when he got hurt, but...
That's for sure. But she don't listen to what nobody tells her, so she ain't never gonna get nowhere. She's one of dem people what figures out ahead of time what they're gonna believe. Den they don't never hear nothing that disagrees.
I'd known Belinda longer than I liked to remember, and more intimately than the world needed to know. She had huge intellectual flaws. Willful disdain of facts was never one of those. Work. For sure? Like how?
Well, you know Morley don't got a lot of use for his ethnic roots. He's a dark elf, but, yeah? So what? He's in business in a human city and half the people there, they don't know dat, can't tell dat, and maybe don't need to know dat if in they're the kind what gives a shit about dat.
I nodded. Sarge's dialect was thicker than usual, but I was following him. He was saying Morley wasn't one for living in the past. Did something change? He had been found in that zone where Greater TunFaire fades into the neighborhood known as Elf Town. Folk there, who never saw a house in their home country, live in tenements 12 to a room and insist that they'll never put the old ways and old tongue behind them.
Something did. Maybe that bent what his folks arranged him to marry came to towns.
I thought he bought his way out of that a couple years ago.
We all taught dat. Maybe he just wished he did.
John Salvation joined us, uninvited. He planted himself in front of me, hands on his skinny little girl hips.
Garrett, you have to help me.
Story of my life. I can't afford to invest in one of your plays. And I'm busy, here.
I don't need investors. I have people lined up to buy into anything I put on. I stick with the Weeders because they give me artistic control, but you're the only one I can count on to make my next project a success.
I forgot Sarge and Morley briefly. Pilsud's Vilchik had presented me with a grand conundrum. No way could a street operator like me assure the success of a stage drama. Unless he wanted me to sell seats at knife point. Or maybe he wanted Winger kept out of his hair.
Where is Winger?
Getting into mischief somewhere.
He shrugged.
What I want is for you to get Tinny to come back. She's perfect for the lead in The Fairy Queen.
You want to cast Tinny as a fairy? Man, that's a stretch. She is way too substantial. That wisp furious tide of light was far more suitable.
That's the point. I'm not doing fairy tale fairies. They won't be ethereal. They'll be like elves, only from a realm at right angles to our own. Tinny's coloring and attributes, her stature and sharp attitude, even her freckles, make her the perfect Mathilde.
Will this go on at the World?
Main stage expanded. This will be my biggest hit yet, Garrett.
Tinny doesn't get along with Heather Solmes's.
I'll make them get along.
I liked his confidence.
Tinny is Mathilde, but I will send her packing if she behaves the way she did before. You don't need to tell her that. I'll make it clear at first rehearsal.
Interesting times were headed our way. Look at you getting all self-confident and assertive. What happened to the Remora we knew and loathed?
He found his passion. Are you going to pitch Mathilde to Tinny?
No.
What? Why not?
I'm committed to my own passion.
That will keep me here with my injured friend. If you want Tinny, head on over to Factory Slide. Or better, catch her at work. Go in the afternoon. She'll be sick of accounting. I can give you a letter to get you past the guards.
If that's the way it has to be. Would you be interested in a small role? I need a banged-up Hulk to play the faithful old soldier.
John, you need to come at me some other time. I was involved in an important discussion with Sarge when you horned in.
The playwright goggled. He had lost his appreciation of direct talk. People did talk to the Remora that way back when. They talked to Pilsud's Vilchik that way in the Once Upon a Time. They didn't talk that way to the town's hottest celebrity today.
I'd make a good faithful old soldier what's been banged around enough to have some character.
And there was another reason John Salvation felt free to unleash his inner dick. People put up with it because he might cast them in a play. Salvation did not get in a huff. He just went away, no doubt deleting my name from his roll of potential character actors. Sorry about that, Sarge.
He ain't timid no more.
No, unless he was on the street.
No shit, Dara. Dat attitude don't cut no nuttin' wit to Bruno's. If they was any dat the director didn't already ship off to da work camps.
An interesting notion. That law and order had become so ubiquitous that smarmy little peckerwoods like the Remora could turn snotty and not have to pay with bloody head wounds. What did Deal Railway think of that unintended consequence? Anyway, you were telling me that Morley's country fiancé might be in town hoping to dip into his pockets.
That's just one theory.
Are there others?
Probably. You gotta ask the Kappa. Me, I don't think so fast, so I just follow along.
I see. Don't put yourself down. You have a knack for doing the right thing at the right time. He saved my life once upon a time. Did you hold back anything from the Kappa? Something you guys thought might upset her? A downside to being a sociopath like Belinda was that people walked on eggshells around you. They didn't tell you things that might upset you. You ended up operating in a bad news vacuum. Belinda was smart enough to see that. She created ways around the standard distortion. But those ways would not work inside a closed and loyal crew like Morley's. Belinda might suspect that they were blowing smoke and leaving things unsaid, but that would be outside her imperial reach.
Any other time, Garrett, and you'd be right. If Morley survivin' wasn't involved, we'd mix up a whole stew of half-truths and misleading truths. We wouldn't let her know what was really what. But this time it was himself as the table stakes. This time we had to tell her true.
The dialect had weakened. I understood every word. Morley's crew would not hold out on Belinda while she could do their friend and employer some good. They would turn loose nothing that didn't bear on the immediate problem, though. You didn't hold anything back.
Nuttin'. We gotta get our Morley back, which I guess we sorta got. If he ever come out of that coma, and we gotta have a shot at fixin' whoever done whatever got did to him. We figure you and Decappa together are gonna see the blood spread where that's gonna do the most good. And I think I better get on back down to that place, now. They're gonna need me. This is the busiest night of the week.
I wouldn't want to interfere with business. Get going. If something turns up that might interest me, don't waste time letting me know.
He's gonna make it, ain't he, Garrett?
I'm sure. Tell the others. Morley will be back real soon.
Thanks, Garrett. Maybe you ain't the complete sponge we always thought.
Sarge, Puddle, and others of Morley's bunch had, back when, treated me like I carried a social disease. They had kept it in check only when Dotes was there, watching. I'm pleased to hear you say that, Sarge. It means a lot. Now go back to work and make Morley rich. As Sarge headed out, I realized that I could not remember what Morley called the place he had opened across from the world. What was wrong with me? Tinny and I had eaten there several times. Chapter 43. A quick census revealed that the Garrett household had shed most of its visitors. Some, when the dead man showed me the roster, were folks I'd missed. Some I didn't know.
Tinny never showed.
I asked Singe.
Which means nothing.
She told me.
She was informed that important matters would be discussed, but this is the middle of the work week, and Amalgamated still suffers from explosively good sales. Note that the people who are here mostly aren't the kind who have ordinary jobs.
Yeah, true. She made it sound plausible. Those who were still around sure fit. Saucerhead Tharp, maybe passed out drunk, looked pathetic snoring in a corner. John Salvation was bold enough to use Singe's pens and inks to scribble in the bound book of blank pages he carried everywhere. Then Salvation was up.
You said you'd write a letter that would get me in to see Tinny.
So I did. Help me swing this desk around, and I'll get on it. I created a 300-word masterpiece that would get Tinny salivating over the prospects of what John Salvation might want to discuss. I kept me out of it. I said nothing about where I was, what I was doing, why, or even my state of health. She could squeeze that out of the remora if she wanted to know, and he could let me know how interested she was. If it went right, I might try to sneak away for a peace conference. And then we were down to Saucerhead, a few rat people, and the folks over there with the dead man. I complained. I never got a chance to talk to John Stretch. I wanted to catch up on his adventures.
He's doing fine. Outstanding, considering he's still the boss of bosses in the rat underworld. After all these years.
That would be about 3, wouldn't it?
Only one as boss of bosses. The first of his kind, really.
She glowed with pride. Her brother was the undisputed overlord of crime amongst her species. Her look dared me to disrespect her pride. I'd never do that, not to Singe. Garrett, please join us. Though I did not hear Singe mentioned, I was not alone in migrating. It seemed there wasn't just one corpse in the cold room when Singe and I arrived. Nobody moved. You'd expect that from Old Bones, but Colda, Playmate, or the healer should have been doing something. Singe went straight to Playmate, who, definitely, looked dead. I had Mr. Calder give him a measure of the medication meant for Mr. Dotes. We will put a bad thing to good use by keeping Playmate under, while I battle the monster devouring him from inside. Singe, engage one of the Kerr tribe to take a message to the brother-in-law managing Playmate's stable. He will need to understand what is happening. Do not give too much detail. Do not suggest that we have any great hope. The brother-in-law will, almost certainly, find the prospect of Playmate's recovery disheartening. From what I knew about Playmate's brother-in-law, I reckoned the dead man was spot on. Play's sister was his only heir. The idiot husband probably had a buyer for the stable lined up. So what are you actually doing? I am working inside Playmate's brain to shut down the pain that distracts him from handling the rest of his life. In parallel, I have been scanning Mr. Calder's herbal knowledge in hopes of discovering a specific for Playmate's cancer. Any luck? Possibly. But it comes from the mind of Brother Hoto instead. He knows of a reptile venom that attacks tumor tissue vigorously. Where do we find the poison lizard? It is a tropical species. A flashily clad critter something like an iguana with saber teeth appeared in my mind. I remember this guy from the islands. A bad actor. You went down if he breathed on you. As always, you exaggerate where there are no witnesses to contradict you. Nonetheless, the venom is potent. A few of the lizards may live in TunFaire. Somebody in Calder's racket had a few hidden away. Or maybe the children of the light, selling miracles to the wealthy. They are in the exotic reptile house of the Royal Zoo. Oh, yeah. The royals did collect odd critters. One of the princesses had a special building for moths and butterflies. None of us low-life types ever get to see that stuff. You have a connection with a prince. I did. Sort of. Meantime, I am mining Brother Hoto for anything useful in developing an understanding of the who, what, and why behind Mr. Dotes' misadventure. Why not just pluck that out of Morley's head? Those fruits are not there to pluck. It could be that he was hit with a rock from the sky and will not be able to tell us anything when he does wake up. But he will wake up? Within 2 days. Possibly sooner. Assuming Brother Hoto knows his poison. You may go ahead now, Singe. He had given Singe work without consulting me. I was getting hungry. I hadn't seen Dean for some time. You now know what I know. There is nothing you can contribute here. Check on Mr. Dotes. Go to the kitchen. Get some rest. I took a good look at Playmate before I went. The man was one of my oldest and most reliable friends. We had helped one another countless times. He grumbled when I asked for something but never failed to come through. I would do what I could to be a good friend in turn. Morley was sleeping normally. There was more color in his face. Dollar Dan told me he had said something, one word, but nothing the guards had understood. Headway? I found Dean in one of the chairs at the kitchen table, leaning on his folded arms, asleep. I downed the last of a collection of tasteless leftovers. I had caught something from one of our visitors, several of who had had the sniffles. Whatever it was, wherever I got it, it was aggressive. I felt weak as I headed upstairs. At that point I thought it was because I'd put away too much beer. Half dreaming already, I caught the edge of the dead man's concerned thoughts. He was worried about something. It was a generalized worry, about all of us, not targeted.
Chapter 44. I wakened in the middle of the night. A cool breeze came in the open window. The windwalker, furious tide of light, sat cross-legged on the corner of the foot of my bed, on the side where my feet weren't. I was stretched out kitty corner from top left to lower right. She looked far more the fairy princess than Tinny ever could. She looked like the queen of temptation, too. She had turned the lamp up. There was light enough to reveal her flash of a smile when she saw that treacherous flicker in my eyes. She could have had me then, if she'd wanted. But I sneezed. She thought that was funny. I can't help it. I prayed she wouldn't turn on the heat. I had seen her reduce an entire construction crew to drooling idiocy, not even doing it deliberately. I'm a committed man, I told myself. I can't jump into these things. I sneezed again. She produced a dainty handkerchief. Thanks. My head was full of stuff. The bright side was, a man sneezing and clearing his head doesn't make that interesting a target for a vamp. Still, I asked, how about you get to business before I go crazy? Ghost of a smile. She was pleased. She had reassured herself. She was desirable. She had serious issues, but none connected to what we were into today.
Business. Yes, I need that too.
She shut her eyes and made a conscious effort to become asexual. She wasn't entirely successful, but it did get easier to consider something beyond the possibilities of our situation. I blew my nose again.
I visited Prince Rupert today.
You sound glum. It didn't go well?
It went better than I expected, actually. It just didn't go the way I hoped. He named no names and pointed no fingers. He admitted that he's under pressure to stay away from the mess on the north side. He kept up a brave front, but he's scared. I think the pressure comes from his brother.
The king? I sneezed. This cold could become ugly. The coughing couldn't be far away. The king seemed an unlikely villain. Since peace broke out, he had done little but party all night and sleep all day.
I know. So, then, who has the power to move the king? I'm top 10 and I don't. I can barely get in to see Rupert.
Why would he go along? I looked at her and tried to keep my gaze from roaming.
Bless you.
Yeah. Bless the common cold. My honor saved by mucus. I turned so I could look at anything but her.
One good thing came out today. I'm satisfied that Kevins isn't involved.
I'm happy for you. I wasn't so sure. Her daughter had serious head problems that disconnected her from society and its rules.
First proof is, nobody would cover for her like this is being covered up. And she has alibis for both nights when crazy things happen.
She didn't sound happy about that. She said she was estranged from both her father and daughter. Maybe her dad was Kevins's alibi. Had to be. And that might not hold up. The Windwalker really did not want to rely on her father anymore. She had pushed him out of the family mansion on the hill. Barate Algarda, who was, in every other way I'd ever seen, as exemplary a human being as you could hope to meet, had instilled in this daughter an insecurity so great, she thought that her only real value could be as somebody's sex toy. Which I was thinking.
I'm one of the 10 most powerful sorcerers in TunFaire.
But the little girl inside didn't reckon her worth that way.
I know that here.
She thunked her noggin with her fist. So the question would be, who scares Rupert more than you do? That drew a surprisingly adolescent grin.
Yep. But you need to remember that Rupert will still be his own man, even if somebody has him wetting his pants. He's kind of like you that way.
I felt a far sense of amusement.
Without saying so, he let me know he hopes I'll keep stirring the pot. He hinted that there are people on the margins who aren't likely to turn their backs because an authority doesn't want them nosing around.
She rambled on. That sounded like Rupert. He would conform to his instructions but would fail to notice insubordination. A toe tap here and there might encourage more non-compliance.
I have to leave. I can't stand the distraction.
She eased off the end of my bed, headed for the window more slowly than she could have done. I had no trouble sensing her willing me to stop her. I imagine she had no trouble sensing me wanting to do exactly that. It didn't happen. It wasn't the time, even if it was fated. She clambered out the window. A clumsy process, also slower than it had to be, but she turned divinely graceful once she started walking on moonlight.
There's something about you. When your relationship with the red-headed woman falls apart, I'm coming for you. You'll be amazed. We'll be the talk of the town. We'll have the wedding of the year.
She said. I gulped and gaped as she fluttered away, leaving no doubt that she meant every word. Hill folk do when they make a declarative statement. Even shy, socially inept hill folk. Which left me with extremely mixed emotions. I lay back, sure I wouldn't sleep again for the rest of my life. Chapter 45. I've got talents. I've got skills. When my head gets too frothy with what-ifs, I've got a live-in, so to speak, logier who steps in and shuts me down. I slept till mid-morning. Singe came to wake me. I came round in a good mood. If it wouldn't get us both burned at the stake, I'd My tongue froze. My jaw locked. Old Bones never touched me that way. That he had needed no explanation. Rat people weren't built to frown, but Singe could squint and demand.
What?
Singe, I was going to make a really bad joke that would have been way out of line. I'm sorry. I've been away too long. Singe was bright but didn't work that one out. Thank God. Or the gods. Or maybe the old dead thing downstairs who saved me the taste of leather in my mouth. So, Singe was a grown rat woman and no longer entertained adolescent fantasies about us becoming lovers. She was the wondrous, perfect business side of my business. But she still had emotion invested. She could be hurt deeply by what might sound like me poking fun.
By the time you reach 200, we will turn you into a mature, thoughtful, sensitive adult who thinks before he says, "Oh, sugar! Oh, sugar! What the eshy double broomsticks did that mean?"
While the mental stuff happened, I dragged myself out of bed. My marvelous business partner, whose feelings I had just so bravely taken into account, sniffed around with increasing agitation.
You had a woman in here last night?
There was an angry edge to her voice. After several bellicose sniffs round the bed, though, she relaxed. Maybe the dead man brought her up to speed. Or she worked the whole thing out with her mutant nose. Garrett had avoided temptation. Oh, sugar, because we are about to have unexpected guests, and you need to be here to help manage them. An image of an angry band of children of the light formed in my mind. They made a big black blot in the street.
What's the big deal? Ignore them.
I would rather not. More than most who come threatening grief or mayhem, these old men could cause us some discomfort. Naturally, he didn't explain. With Singe's assistance, I made myself presentable and was ready before the hammering on the door commenced. I used the peephole, saw a lot of black clothing. I let the folks stew till the dead man thought they were ready. My first impression was, wow, I'd better send Singe for Captain Roger. Half these guys were going to expire before sundown. Their median age had to be in triple digits. The youngest looked like he started yearning for the good old days when the dead man was a pup. 4 had reached my stoop. Howdy, fathers. How can I help you? How had they survived the climb? If you're collecting for your church, I have to tell you we're Orthodox here. By birth. I hadn't been to a service in an age. You have Brother Hoto Pepper confined here. We have come to take him away. Pull the ugly one inside and shut the door. Lock up, then bring him in here. Excellent. We had a plan. All I needed to do was to pick a winner. Old Bones had no patience. One old man developed a halo. I grabbed, pulled, slammed, locked. Well, Singe did the locking while I held the door shut. Our victim shambled dispiritedly off to the party room. The children of the light outside waxed enthusiastic in their threats. The dead man showed no concern. I asked, "You need me now?" Not right away. I headed for the kitchen. I was hungry. I didn't get far with correcting that. You may allow our visitors to leave, now. I pushed back from the table, marched off to do my duty. You sure? There is nothing more that I can retrieve from any of them. 2 old guys in black and the poisoner Kolda Pardon, the apothecary Calder, awaited me outside the dead man's doorway. Calder will be gone only a short while. He will gather some specifics to help with Playmate. Please make sure that Brother Hoto does exit the premises. He is reluctant to rejoin his own kind. He fears that they will ask him the same questions I did, but using tools. I expected a hassle from the crowd when I released their brethren. That did not happen. The dead man had tamed or confused them, and they had worn themselves out chipping the paint off the door. I closed up and went back to reacquaint myself with breakfast. As I passed my former office, I noted that Morley's only company was Dollar Dan. The caretaker rat women had come and gone. The other guards had gone with them. We do not need them now that there are no outsiders in the house. Mr. Dollar can go once you finish eating. I trekked on and in time assailed a stack of griddle cakes. Dean didn't make those often. He was in a good mood. I mentioned it.
Perhaps because of the excitement yesterday, it took me back.
I looked at him askance. He didn't change his story in Chapter 46. I shut the door behind Dollar Dan. He would come back later to sit with Morley while I was upstairs snoring.
And snoring it had better be.
Singe told me, remembering the woman's smell. She did not like Furious Tide of Light today. I wasn't sure why. I can't quite work out how Singe decides who she likes and who she doesn't, nor why she will change her mind overnight. Her brain doesn't work like mine. I'm sure her sense of smell has something to do with it. I settled in near Morley, a pot of tea at hand. The dead man filled me in on what he had learned from our visitors, including tidbits from the elders who had come for Brother Hoto. Of interest was the fact that Winger and the Remora were drifting apart. The drift mainly hers. She couldn't handle his success. We do not know much more about the threat to the city. We do know who has been warned off it. We have eyes and ears watching and listening now. We know we will get Mr. Dotes back. Additionally, we have set in motion actions that offer a chance of rescuing Playmate from the natural monster devouring him. That was good news. Did you get anything from the Windwalker? Vague amusement, presumably at my expense. That woman is the most simple-minded, empty-headed genius I have ever encountered. She can focus her entire being on the moment. You could do far worse. Excuse me? As a practical matter, she would provide all the fireworks and more with none of the drama of your Miss Tate. Miss Algarda is ready to grant her devotion. That would be unreserved and absolute. She considers you an ideal candidate. Although she is an immense and formidable power and a genius professionally, her emotional world is simpler than that of Deal Railway. That's scary. It is. She does not grasp nuance or shades of gray. The answer to why me might be tucked inside what he had sent. A different kind of sociopath she would not need time to work things out. Is not, with nothing in between. She would be clever enough not to push me, wouldn't she? You could be right in considering her a special kind of sociopath. She is smart enough to show the behavior she has seen in courtships, but she will not be resilient if she is misled, mistreated, emotionally abused, or blackmailed. I believe I get the idea. Good. You are staring into the eyes of a big responsibility. I had an uncomfortable notion that I knew what he meant. Dotes's first law, keep your hands off a woman crazier than you are, which I observed in the breach. Furious Tide of Light would be, you touch it, you bought it. But I didn't believe she was crazy, not the way girlfriends usually are. Her head worked different, sure. She had grown up sheltered from life. She coped now because she didn't go out much. When she did, she dealt with people she scared so bad they couldn't imagine messing with her. Hers was a unique emotional realm, but it was the only one she knew. Part of me did find her damned intriguing. It hunted loopholes in Dotes's law. That was the part exhausted by squabbling with Tinny. What do you think, old bones? I think it is none of my business. I think you are an adult now, and I should not tinker unless, as was the case with Singe this morning, you start running your mouth with no thought to the consequences. I was stunned by making that carefully neutral statement. He had told me something I'm sure he did not intend. He had doubts about Tinny, after all this time. I would have expected him to endorse the redhead and reject the Windwalker. I wasn't in her class, and she came with a whole different drama. I wasn't in Tinny's class either, but a different definition of class was operative there. Maybe he was tired of the drama too. Still, I carefully reviewed his communications since he had labeled Furious Tide of Light an empty-headed genius. I got a strange impression that he did prefer the Windwalker, but would be careful not to say so. Off I rambled into my own internal drama land, wondering what it was about the beautiful but weird sorceress that made her a preferable mate. Morley tried to say something.
Chapter 47. Morley was awake. His eyes were halfway open, fluttering. He wanted to say something. Having been in his position myself, I told him, "You're at my place on Macunado Street, being watched out for by me, Singe, the dead man, Belinda, John Stretch, the civil guard, and the God's damned Windwalker, Furious Tide of Light. Somebody really wanted to close you down, buddy. Oh, you've been out for more than a week. They tried to poison you too." In retrospect, that actually helped. His wounds healed a lot while he was unconscious. He tried to sit up. He got nowhere. His wounds were not healed enough. He felt them too, and now had no strength left. Water was the first word I understood. Then Dean was there, not only with water but with warm chicken broth. Singe was only a moment behind. She helped lift Morley so Dean could deliver the water and liquid chow. After the stress level declined and the broth began to work.
Tell me.
Be easier for the dead man.
Work? You tell.
I told my part and what I knew to be true with the precision I used reporting to the dead man. Morley did not seem much interested in who had stabbed him. He was intensely interested in all the who's and what happens after he went down. Singe and I added what we had heard from unreliable sources. Everything given him, I moved on to my own curiosities. What were you doing in that part of town anyway? Not that you don't have a right to go wherever you damned well please. But, unless things changed lately, you don't have much to do with those people. Sometimes I think he was embarrassed by his ethnic background. He was not yet in any condition for real talk. He eyed me in disbelief. Then his handsome face collapsed into despair.
I can't remember. He couldn't root it out?
No, unless he didn't recognize it because it didn't connect with everything else. That was my theory. Morley had been involved in something else entirely when he walked blind into something deadly. Morley frowned. I took that to mean he wanted an explanation. Sarge thinks you were up there paying off your fiancé's families. Morley looked puzzled, but I didn't feel any honest emotion behind that. I didn't pursue it. Old Bones could fill me in later. I did ask, how do you justify Belinda Contague against Dote's first law?
There are 12 kinds of crazy, Garrett. Romantic attraction is the worst.
His first complete statement, and, probably, one of the truest things he ever said. I am getting nothing more now than I did while Mr. Dotes was unconscious. There is nothing there, though it would appear that chunks of memory may have been lost to concussion or that drug. A pity. Indeed, all that can be done now is to protect him till he can protect himself. He'll want to get after this before he's physically ready. Should he be so inclined, I will make sure he falls asleep on his way to the door. I chuckled. Morley scowled. I explained. Not to worry. We're just planning your future. You'll thank us later. He hurt too much to be amused.
I said. There's some silliness taken care of. What do you figure on doing?
I'm going back to sleep.
And he did. Just like that. And it was the best thing he could do once he was full of high-potency chicken broth. Soon he would get full-bodied chicken soup with noodles and bits of bird. The dead man suggested that I forget Mr. Dotes for a while. I should go relax with Singe, who could help bring me up to speed. That made me feel like I had been cast as a spear carrier. I had few options if I wanted to stay close to Morley. Old Bones didn't mind not keeping me posted, but Singe had to know stuff because she managed operations and handled the money. She commiserated over my problems with the redhead.
Pack up your pride and go talk to her. Morley will be safe.
I hemmed and hawed, but I'm no good at stalling while trying to find plausible excuses for avoiding something that could turn out ugly.
Good gods, Garrett. What are you? 13 and an only child? Go talk to her. What's the worst she can do?
I told her what the worst was.
After all the time, trouble, training and emotion she has invested in you.
Yes. After all that. She's turned into a pretty selfish girl.
How did that happen? Who gave her the idea that whatever Tinny wants, Tinny deserves and gets it? Garrett, you are a first-class dum-dum. Tinny has been in your life since my mother was a pup. She came and went a few times, but she was always back after whoever was distracting you moved on.
That was harsh but essentially factual. Both ways. Tinny had had some gentlemen suitors. I had had Maya, Eleanor, even Belinda. I scowled, hoping Tinny's man friends had not gotten as close as I had to some of those ladies. Maya had been determined to marry me.
She never managed to get me to hold still long enough.
She had gone on to do much better. And I had gone gaga for Eleanor despite her having been murdered long before I ever met her. Her ghost and her memory were an important part of my life for a long time.
You need to leave the yesteryear baggage behind. Get back to Tinny being who she was when she was your special best friend who happened to be a girl's.
I wondered if she was being coached from across the hall. Good stuff, Singe. Stuff worth thinking about. She preened. What do you think of the Windwalker?
Who?
The Windwalker, furious tide of light.
The sorceress who tagged along when I backtracked to the warehouse where all the horror stuff was. The woman who was in your room last night.
Her.
What about her?
She didn't have much of a rough, but it was up. You remember her from the thing with the ghosts and giant bugs. Several seconds of silence.
All right. That was the same woman.
Singe.
What about her?
Singe, I'm asking your opinion of that woman based upon your exposure, interaction, and magical nose.
I don't have an opinion. How could I? My personal exposure hasn't been enough to develop one. Probably less than an hour over both our lifetimes. Anything I said would be speculative. So, why is my opinion important?
That had a high bullpoop content. I didn't challenge it. Because she's important to me. Because you're important to me. I'm extremely attracted to her, physically and intellectually. And she says she's going to marry me. The Windwalker did say that, didn't she? Or did I dream it? No matter. It was out of the bag now. Singe said nothing for several minutes, though she did spout the occasional interrogative sentence as she discussed this revolting development with our deceased friend. Singe was, apparently, astonished by the dead man's positive attitude toward the Windwalker and his lessened enthusiasm toward Tinny. I must say that, though forewarned, I didn't understand him either, and he offered no explanation. I needed to think about that. The mix for consideration should include not just what I knew about Tinny and the Windwalker, whose given name I did not yet know, but also what the dead man knew and never shared. I should get Tinny to visit. Old Bones hadn't burgled her head in ages. I asked the air, do I need to be scared? I got no answer. Of course. Then I got distracted by supper and Calder's return. Then it was time to supervise the rat women who came to clean Morley. They were amazed and amused by a gallant salute that reared up while they changed his diaper. He was on his way back for sure. The caretakers gave way to a brace of armed ratmen. Singe's brother came with them. We settled in her office. We drank some beer. John Stretch had become an interesting person in his own right. I wondered how many more geniuses his mother had produced. I wasted a lot of time wondering about non-productive stuff. Chapter 48. Confusion. A lot of beer went down during the discussions with Singe and John Stretch. Then came bed, me thinking this was like the good old days. All that commotion about relationships was silly-ass fuss with no enduring real-world significance. Singe had bullied me into reaffirming my commitment to Tinny. She wasn't hot to have Furious Tide of Light as her stepmom. So the woman had a few quirks. Didn't we all? The problem she had was breaking loose from her father. As I noted, the Algardas might be weird and have dark secrets, but they were still caring, kind people where others were concerned. Such was my tangle of thought as I drifted off, not nearly as reconciled to the redhead as Singe hoped. I left the window ajar. I told myself that was because I needed the night air to cool my room. More than air got in, and had done nothing to cool anything down. Furious Tide of Light played more fair than most women. She knew she could turn me into a sock puppet with some eye-batting, heavy breathing, and a dash of suggestive dialogue. Women understand these things by the time they're 10. Some just don't learn to trust their instincts. A desirable woman who catches a man in bed in the middle of the night won't need to work hard to have her way. The Windwalker was gentle, thoughtful, and careful not to unfairly exploit her advantage. She could have made the situation more chaste, only by standing off and touching me with a 10-foot pole. Once I woke up all the way, though, I took over. The natural Garrett charm kicked in, made sure she found me completely unappetizing. I had done honors to a lot of fine beer earlier. It now yearned to be free. My choices were to be embarrassed a little, or embarrassed a lot. I chose the chamber pot over wetting myself. Not behavior accepted in the drawing rooms of the upper classes, but not utterly gauche and unacceptable in mine. Elimination processes are natural and necessary. And I was polite enough to step into a corner and face away. Never mind. The Windwalker woke me up. I did what I had to do. Any romantic notions she brought along got put on hold. Still, she was a resilient fae. She might have bounced back had it not been for the interruption. I was looking at her, determined to ask why she was here but getting entangled in the fantasy wondering if I shouldn't have taken a bath, when she let out a baby squeal and slammed a fist down hard on the windowsill. She had to leap to do it, and when I say hard I mean she shook the house. The wood in the window frame groaned. A soft curse from the street followed, and I felt nothing to indicate that the dead man knew something dangerous had begun. The Windwalker had not brought the lighting up brighter tonight. Yet. Only a candle burned, its wan light barely potent enough to reveal a blindly groping arm of flesh, like the one that had tried getting in through the window at Fire and Ice. I joined the Windwalker in an effort to punish that. Unhappy noises came from outside. I hurled raging thoughts the dead man's way. I slammed the window shut. Furious Tide of Light used the candle to light my lamps, then applied the business end to the probe still oozing in through the crack of the window. That caused some excitement. Sudden as an explosion, an awful despairing wail came from the street. The arm of flesh went crazy as a snake with a broken back. My friend kept right on attacking it. Something on the other end decided that it did not need to explore my bedroom after all. Furious Tide of Light leaped into the air, slammed down hard on the double hung. A chunk of whatever 2 feet long and as thick as her wrist separated from what lay outside. That was most remarkably unusual. Definitely a woman with potential. I had nothing to say. I fell down on the side of my bed. The Windwalker landed in my lap. Our hearts were pounding. Our attention was on the severed tentacle. I croaked. They found Morley again. A shriek of rage and pain ripped the night outside. It did not stop. It headed away, uphill on Macunado, at no great speed. The Windwalker did not get up to take a look. I did not have the moral fiber to set her back on her feet. The dead man made contact, but his thoughts had no form. I got the impression that were he a living being, he would be puking up his guts. His distress took me away from my dilemma. Though the Windwalker kind of leaned back and made herself comfortable. Old Bones needed time to pull himself together. Once he did, I was in contact with a different being. He had dipped a toe into a darkness even he could not have imagined just a few days ago. He was centuries older than me. That something contemporary would appear terrible to him scared the pants off me. Did I dare be pantsless in the presence of furious tide of light? If they are not on now, Garrett, get them on. You have to make a census of the people who were supposed to be watching. I do? What? Your trousers. You are not actually wearing them. Remove the Windwalker from your lap and put on your trousers. I want you both out in the street. Her I want aloft and following the thing that fled up Macunado. It was not traveling at any great speed. Let her catch up. If she can control it, have her bring it back. I had questions. This was not the time. This was the time to move fast. Response times are crucial. Singe will come collect the specimen. She'd better hurry. The one up north turned to stink and goo. The Windwalker, prized loose, looked at me oddly. I told her. You know about my partner. He's why you're wearing the Caven's mesh. So he can't get inside your head. He wants me to ask you to do some stuff. I relayed the dead man's instructions quickly.
I'd better get going. I don't think there's much chance I can control that thing. I don't have those skills. Get that window open.
She understood immediately. I'd just finished when Singe bulled in, armed with a bucket and sour attitude. She turned sourer still as she watched the Windwalker float away, which I wasn't watching because I had turned to face her. As I pointed out the piece of monster flesh.
Why isn't that woman wearing any underwear?
Damn, I missed that completely. Lucky for Singe's peace of mind, I'd had my pants on when she charged in. I went out the front door like people who can't fly. Singe had armed me up, though my lead-weighted head knocker was the only tool of mayhem obvious. I was feeling less confident than I ought, being fully aware that I hadn't done this stuff for a long time. My skills and instincts had atrophied. The dead man filled my head with an itinerary. And there will be much to tell once I have had time to reflect. Those things should not have been able to get close. They should not have been able to brush me aside so easily, though it may be a blessing that they did. I cannot imagine the mind of a master vampire being more filled with filth. 5 men representing as many interests had been posted to keep an eye on my place. No doubt they knew about one another. They might have pooled resources. Old Bones wanted a roll call. Men doing similar work had come to grief up by fire and ice. This was nothing I wanted to do, which might suggest that I was past the point where I should stop doing what Tinny wanted me to stop doing. If I couldn't handle the ugliness anymore, I should get busy being the neutered door guard I'd seen myself as before this came rumbling down. Among the civil guard, Belinda's friends, a guy from Morley's crew and one from the Children of the Light, I found 6 of the 5 people Old Bones claimed were watching. John Stretch's guys nabbed the extra. First was a red top right across the street. He was uninjured, but his mind had gone blank, which was the story over and over. The last man, a tin whistle posted on the steps to Mrs. Cardomlos's house, was awake but deeply confused. I found one dead man, a door up the street from my place. Nobody knew him. Probably an unlucky guy who thought he'd found a nice place to spend a homeless night. I approached the Cardomlos homestead, wakened the widow. She pretended that I was disturbing her rest with my assault on her door. She had not aged well and had not handled that well. She had become a cosmetics huckster's dream, a younger man's nightmare, and an object of derision for attractive younger women. I've seen so many like her that I suspected a disease strikes women of a certain age. Badly colored hair, makeup laid on with a trowel, perfume dense as a swamp's miasma, and a ready, pathetic simper for any man young enough to remember what it's like to stand upright. She did not simper at me. She recognized me.
It started, hasn't it?
Excuse me, what started?
The death of tranquility.
She freighted that with omen, like she was proclaiming the twilight of the gods.
There hasn't been any trouble here since you followed your trollop up the hill?
She didn't have that right. My trollop was actually a lady, and she had nothing to do with the hill. I'm back. You should petition the director to put you back on full time. Meantime, he needs to know what happened tonight. All his people were hurt. One man died. He'll recall what happened on the north sides. Mrs. Cardomlos gulped some air. She wanted to make that all my fault but didn't know how. I pointed. That one down there has lost his hearing. The veteran lady gulped again.
The excitement is back.
Get word to the Alcar. I'll be busy getting the casualties together and trying to help them. Extra info she could include in her report to encourage a quick response. Railway would want his troops exposed to the dead man as briefly as possible. Chapter 50. Furious tide of light returned before the guard showed. She was morose and uncommunicative. I wasted no questions. The dead man would winkle out anything of interest. I did suggest, how about you help with these guys that got hurt? I had 3 pulled together in one place. Keeping them there was problematic. They wanted to wander off. Singe had gone to find her brother. She returned with a half-dozen rat men who helped collect the other casualties and wrangled those already rounded up. Singe was antsy. She wanted to get on the trail of the thing that had started the excitement. But she restrained herself in front of the Windwalker at the gentle urging of the dead man. Furious tide of light went through the motions half-heartedly, aiding the injured. She must have found something she had not wanted to find, following that whatever to its lair. When she wasn't being her brother's surrogate on the spot, Singe glared at the Windwalker and gave me looks, demanding.
When are we going to get going? The trail is getting cold.
I don't think we will.
Why not?
3 reasons. We are forbidden. My mission is to protect Morley, and Old Bones already knows. She understood, but still she made hissing noises to express her exasperation. The Windwalker's healing skills were basic. She reached her limits quickly, but she did stabilize everyone. Nobody else died, but the man I had found dead stayed that way. The man who came out on behalf of the guard was one Rockland Sink, previously unknown to me. He was rational and reasonable. He didn't automatically assume everybody who wasn't him was guilty of something. He didn't treat people like they'd already been convicted of aggravated capital treason with a garlic pickle on the side. We were headed into the graveyard shift when he showed. We had a smaller audience than seemed likely. Evidently, people didn't get out of bed to be entertained by the misfortunes of others anymore. The time and pitiful audience may have helped shape Sink's attitude. Maybe it wasn't worth the work, putting on a hard-ass show. Still, any true believer in the railway vision must start from the premise that anyone who isn't Deal Railway or one of his henchmen is likely an agent of chaos and a harbinger of the coming darkness. Investigations are built on such foundations, their function to find or create support for the initial supposition. Sink was the kind of guy who palled around with you till you handed him the end of the rope he would use to stretch your neck. I kept him near the house while we talked. Old Bones soon let me know why this man had been sent. This is Mr. Sink's first field assignment. His functions at the Alcar have involved payroll accounting and personnel management. His task tonight is to learn as much as possible without revealing the guard attitude toward this case. Meaning the civil guard did have an attitude they didn't want expressed. I don't care. All I'm interested in is taking care of my friend till he's ready for release into the wild. By now the guard had established an overwhelming presence. Ratmen were scarce. The Windwalker got inside before she was recognized. I was outside with nobody but Singe and swarming red tops. I developed the suspicion that nobody interested in this mess was really looking the other way just because some unidentified entity insisted. Not privately. I was a gracious host. I repeated my story over and over. Sink insisted that he had to have the fragment of a tentacle. Singe hustled off, brought it out. It was spoiled already. The bucket contained noxious brown soup with chunks of meat quickly melting. It did not smell like fresh seafood. I didn't care. That was what I expected. I wanted to get back inside and find out why the Windwalker was distraught. Rockland Sink knew more about the Garrett friends and family than Garrett did. I started to give him hell for loading all the downed watchers into his Alcar wagons. He cut me off. Will we be able to borrow your tracker? Singe was close enough to hear.
I don't have a tracker. One of my associates is a skilled tracker. If you want to avail yourself of her talent, you'll have to work it out with her.
Sink did not like that at all. Old Bones assured me that Sink was not a bad human being. My own impression was that he was about as decent as they came inside the guard. But he was a definite product of TunFaire's human culture. He did not consider ratfolk people. There was a solid chance he didn't consider members of any of the other races real people. The thinking underlying the whole human rights movement was unfashionable at the moment, but it hadn't gone away. It could come back fast. It needed only one ugly nudge. I added, though I wouldn't ordinarily presume to tell her what to do, I'd insist she got her fee up front because she's dealing with the guards. Sir? Taken totally off balance. Your runty boss has a habit of expecting people to help him for the sheer joy of participating in the process. It behooves those addicted to food and shelter to have the foresight to collect their pay before they do the works. Sink honestly seemed bemused. You don't trust the guard. When money is involved, consult your own experience. Seconds passed. Then, I see. Unfortunately, I wasn't given the wherewithal to undertake any negotiations.
Why not? You are on your own then, Constable.
She headed for the house. Where had she found that title? Pulled it from the air, perhaps. I shrugged. There you have it. The track may still be there in the morning. I watched Singe close the door behind herself. I told Sink, on an unrelated point, you won't get much joy from arresting Belinda Contigue's men's. Sink engaged me in a brief semantic debate, insisting that nobody had been arrested. You'll have a hard time selling that to folks whose agents you're hauling off. I don't have to sell anything. He might have been an accountant turned loose, but he did have a full ration of civil guard conceit. He gave me some crap about protective custody for witnesses and about making sure material witnesses got the best of health care. Mr. Sink, I have to hand it to you. You are a prodigy of guard bullshit and refined railway speak. You'll go far, as long as you don't have direct dealings with disgruntled folk like Belinda Contigue's. Sink proved he was a complete desk weenie then, by not being concerned that he might irritate a gang princess. Let it be, Garrett. He is a good man who believes his goodness to be a shield in itself. I understand that you think you must look out for everyone, but the crushing this man is thundering toward might be instructive to the civil guard as a whole. That lesson being, that righteousness is not a shield. The good die more quickly than the bad. It's also damned subjective, but I did not bring that up. I had reached a point where my hopes and ambitions swirled exclusively round the prospect of getting back to bed. Still, some things needed attention. I had to see how Morley had weathered the last few hours, which proved to be he had slumbered on through, and I wanted to hear about what had the Windwalker so glum. I had a suspicion. The dead man told me I was wrong. He did not want to fuss about it tonight. I did need to get back to bed. I had a stressful tomorrow looming. My plan to hit the sack had to go on hold while I convinced Furious Tide of Light
that Singe was doing right by putting her into the guest bedroom, though nothing would have happened if she had been allowed to snuggle in the warm with me. I was exhausted and so not in the mood. Singe's nose told her that. But there were proprieties to be observed, as far as she was concerned. Splitting the difference, I kissed the windwalker on the forehead when Singe wasn't looking. A minute later, I was secure beneath my own blanket. The window was shut and latched. I warmed up the snore cycle. Chapter 51. The dead man was a perfect prognosticator. Next day was a nightmare of visitations. General Block came and went. Belinda Contague did the same, and Mother fussed Morley till he begged her to leave. Deal Railway his own self turned up, accompanied by Rockland Sink. I thought we'd never get shut of him, though early on, for a wonder, he granted that he must be getting the truth from me. It was hard to keep a straight face. Railway wore a custom metal mesh coif under silver mail. His freakish ears protruded through slits provided. Weird. I'd never seen his ears before. They'd always been hidden under his hair. The headgear was guaranteed to shield his thoughts. The dead man assured me that the director had been conned. It hadn't taken him 30 seconds to break through. Railway got no warning from me. I wasn't sure I cared to know what was hidden inside his head. The windwalker stayed out of sight upstairs. She showed no inclination to leave. Singe stoically delivered her breakfast and lunch. Sarge turned up. I joined him in with Morley. Not much got said. Sarge was just plain misty-eyed. While I was in there, other people came by with preliminary reports. Most just shambled past and let old Bones pluck what he needed from their heads, thus betraying no connection to us. The dead man touched me. I need you to catch Mr. Railway. He is a block east of Wizard's Reach, briefing some of his men. I scooted out, chock full of message and thrilled to be running free. I was hacking and panting before I found the director. He wasn't wearing his magical headgear. He looked like just another red top. 5 more of who got ready to thump on me. But Railway had them hold off. No need to start right this instant.
You should get in shape, Garrett. You're way too young to be wheezing after a quarter-mile trot.
Old Bones says to tell you that 4 new watchers just moved into the neighborhood and he can't read them. Yours and the outfits he recognizes and considers harmless. This bunch are different. They showed up right after you left. There might be more than 4 too, since they're so hard to spot. Railway's ugly little face lit up. He asked where to look. I told him.
Thank you, Garrett. I'm going to take back some of the harsher things I've said about you. Go home, get inside, lock your door. Don't let anyone in after sundown.
What? Why not?
Because that thing might be back and maybe has a shapeshifter side to it, which guarantees some high adventure.
He turned away, handed out assignments to his escort. Those men began to hurry off. The director noticed me standing there with my thumb in my ear.
Why the hell are you still here, Garrett?
I headed for the house. It was uphill all the way. Not steeply, but enough to taunt my flabby muscles. The director's men snapped up their first victim as I climbed the steps. Shouting and threatening attended the process. The captive considered himself exempt from the attentions of the civil guard. Railway disagreed. An application of nightsticks ended the argument. The dead man felt so smug about it that I could feel it in the street. But once I got inside, double lock it, then see Dean about salt. That was off the wall. All right, I headed for the kitchen, where I found a disgruntled old man making supper for twice the usual crowd, with the added burden of 2 meals having to be suitable for consumption by invalids. He sucked it up and didn't complain, so I didn't remind him how easy he had it, overall. I expect he liked it better when Singe was the only one he had to feed and fool. Salt, I said.
Yes?
Do we have any? His nib said see you about salt.
I'm seeing you. He must have let you know. Damn, that smells good. Something in the pan had me drooling.
I have 2 pounds and a pinch. I picked up some last week.
And I have some they gave me at the place where we stayed before. I thought I knew what Old Bones wanted done. He gave me a confirmatory nudge. Chapter 52. I ate. The main course was pork chops, for him and me. Singe and Dollar Dan Justice, in with Morley for the night, got sausages and that rat folk favorite, stewed apples. I snagged a dollop of apples for myself. Dean makes them good. For Morley and Playmate it was chicken soup. I hoped Playmate's brother-in-law didn't destroy Play's business while he was away. We all forgot the Windwalker. At first. Old Bones nudged me. I hustled up and let her know it was all right to come down. The outsiders were gone and we were having supper. Downstairs, Singe let her know it was all right for her to go home. Nobody would notice her leaving. I wondered if she thought the watchers had been stricken blind. Singe's whiskers twitched in a way that said she was irritated, probably because she didn't like something she was getting from the dead man. The Windwalker stayed close, which meant she crowded into the kitchen with me and Dean. She donned her vulnerable guise and conquered Dean immediately. In a soft, breathless voice, she told me,
I don't think your associate likes me.
My associate is scared of you.
Why?
She thinks she knows me better than anybody but me. She thinks I'll get infatuated, will lose my sense of proportion, will grab the short end of something, and mess up everything for all of us. Garrett. Really. I meant it. That would be Singe's thinking in essence.
She might be jealous.
That's possible too.
Are you infatuated?
Not quite. Definitely intrigued and valiantly trying to fight it. She smiled slightly, maybe wistfully. Don't you do whatever it is you do that makes every man in sight turn into a drooling wannabe love slave.
I'll be all business. You'll see. You won't even know I'm a girl.
Yeah, right. And then the pigs will come home to roost. It would be impossible for most men and some women to ignore her sex in her presence, even when she didn't want to be noticed. I thought about letting her know that the dead man thought well of her, decided against it. She did not need to be reminded of his existence. Dean poured fresh tea. We sipped. I said, Singe was right about this being a good time to slip away unnoticed.
I don't want to.
Fine. Then you can help with the salt.
The salt.
The thing that keeps trying to get in shows some characteristics of slugs or snails. Slugs and snails don't do well when they run into salt. Furious Tide of Light was the victim of a sheltered childhood. She had no idea. I told her, they melt when you put salt on them. But, seconds later, her attitude brightened.
Gross. I'll help with the salt.
Want to talk about it? Why you were so down after you followed that thing home, but now you're not.
Talk about what? I don't think so.
She really believed in that metal hairnet her daughter had invented. It does work, some. I'm done here. Dean, you outdid yourself.
Not really. You've been eating inferior cooking.
Ouch! He wasn't going to turn on Tinny too, was he? He'd always been a booster. Though, to be perfectly accurate, the redhead was not much of a cook. With her looks, that hadn't been a skill she'd needed to develop. Salt, I said. Time to do it. Dean, thunk. A cloth sack landed in front of me. Save as much as you can. I'll use my own before I break into this. Promise. Chapter 53. The front door was easy. I opened up. The Windwalker sprinkled salt along the sill plate. I shut the door carefully. We would have to redo that one because of traffic. For now it should stay shut till Dollar Dan and the cleaning ladies traded places. We did the back door next. That got almost no use. Likewise the transom and one barred window that let light in during the day. That was the only window left on the ground floor. The others had gotten bricked up during the heyday of lawlessness. Then down we went into the dank of the cellar, me with the lantern, the windwalker lugging the salt. The steps groaned under my weight. They needed replacing. They had begun to rot. I said, "This is nasty."
Only if you're not a spider.
She had that right. Spiderwebs and cobwebs hung everywhere. They covered the surface of the foundation stone. There was dampness on that stone too. The air was thick. Our passage stirred dust despite the damp. The floor, nominally tamped earth, was 1 cup of water short of becoming pure mud. The door to the outside was in worse shape than the steps. I said, "Be generous with that stuff down here. Yuck! This is nasty. I can't imagine why Singe hasn't had it cleaned out and fixed up." Singe didn't think about those parts of the house she didn't visit, that was all. She was conscious of appearances and utility but not maintenance. She would overlook the cellar till the house fell into it. Once we emerged from the underworld, I let her know. She looked me over, sniffed.
Definitely. Morley is awake.
10 minutes. We still need to get the upstairs windows, and I need to get this gunk off me. I returned to the kitchen for tea. The windwalker wasn't there anymore. "Where'd she go, Dean?" He pointed up.
She went to clean up.
"It's really nasty down there."
I like this one, Mr. Garrett.
"What?" I wasn't paying attention because I'd noticed that salt had been laid down along the bottom of the door to the cellar.
This woman. I like her a lot.
"You do? What about Tinny?"
I like Tinny a lot too. Tinny is entertaining and challenging. Because she's always there, there's never been a question if she is the best woman to be there. With this one, though, I'm relaxed and comfortable, despite what she is. I don't worry if she'll start barking about something I have no idea. You do see what I mean?
I did. Still, I was flabbergasted. A great word, that. I didn't get to use it often enough. Flabbergasted. From a root word meaning he ate too many beans. Dean had been a booster of Tinny Tate since the day he finally accepted the fact that he would never hook me up with one of his homely nieces. Did I need to get nervous? In no time, with no apparent effort, furious tide of light had conquered Dean and the dead man both. It had taken old bones and age to accept Tinny. If the windwalker seduced Singe, I was in it deep. "Dean, she is remarkable. Like you say, easy to be around. She just naturally seems to belong. But you have to remember what she is and the people she runs with, and I don't even know her real name. She's still just the windwalker, or furious tide of light."
That might be cumbersome socially if you're making introductions, especially in your circles, but it won't be a problem much longer.
Huh? Caution. Giant intellect at work.
My name is Stropha Algarda.
She moved very close as she came for tea of her own. She bumped me gently, at the hip. I was pretty sure she'd overheard everything. Dean grinned almost lecherously. He'd never done that with Tinny. He'd always been frowns and disapproval when he thought we might be playing grown-ups. I was in it now, definitely and deeply, riding it without reins or a saddle, at a gallop, straight into one of those narrow places every man hates to go, a time of decision. How could I get out of this without somebody getting mangled? The dead man was amused in the extreme. He didn't have the imagination I did. He couldn't picture a future where the Tate clan hunted me down and staked me out on a termite mound, or where one of the top dozen operators in a city renowned for black-hearted and cruel sorcerers had a bone to pick with a man who'd done her wrong.
Do not become hysterical.
And I couldn't respond because we were still pretending that he couldn't read the Stropha's mind. I wished I could get in there and look around myself. I had questions. Chuckles hadn't given me much yet. 2, I wanted to know what he learned from that thing in the street. He should have given me that a long time ago, unless it was too scary for somebody as young as me. And, as long as I was feeling left out, how about what he had gotten out of my best pal? On cue, Sourpuss Singe stuck her head into the kitchen.
You said 10 minutes an hour ago, Garrett. He's fading now.
I've told you 1,000,000 times not to exaggerate. It hasn't been anywhere near an hour.
The point remains. You are ignoring your most important task while you indulge in flirtation.
What was this? My cheeks got hot. I headed for the cold well, grabbed a pitcher. Singe took it away.
I'll handle that. You go see Morley.
Chapter 54. They had him propped up in a chair. He wore clean clothes. Belinda must have had those brought by. He was fading when I arrived, but he brightened some.
They're promising me a real bath soon.
Be like heaven on earth. Struffer had followed me. Morley's eyebrows rose. The hunter light sparked in his eyes. He tried on his girl-killer smile, then looked at me, curious. His face collapsed into a mild frown. Morley, this is Struffer. She's helping find out what happened to you. Struffer, this is Morley Dotes, purported restaurateur and genuine crime victim. Would he recognize her?
Pleased to meet you, Ma'am.
He had made that fast a read. More politely than seemed plausible considering her feelings, Singe eased the windwalker aside so she could deliver my picture. Then she herded Struffer somewhere else.
Something special there?
Might be. He asked none of the questions my conscience primed me to expect.
Interesting.
Frightening. I'm getting lost. This shouldn't happen to me. I'm a big boy, I'm a good boy, and I've been in the same place a long time. The place I've always ended back at since way back when we went to the Cantard to fight vampires. But now this. And I don't know her that well.
It happens, Garrett. How well did you know Maya? Or Eleanor? Eleanor wasn't even alive. And what about Belinda?
Belinda was the other way around. I was mostly trying to keep from getting my throat cut. He didn't call me on that, probably because he didn't want to talk about Belinda.
Not to worry. You being you, you'll mess it up out of some compulsion to do what you think is the right thing. You'll end up back where you started, even if it isn't what you want.
Not what I needed to hear. Let's talk about you.
My favorite topic, but why? Hasn't the dead man drained me dry?
No. He says you've got a brain like a rock.
What can I say? When he's right, he's right. If I had the brains of 2 rocks, I wouldn't be in this condition.
You starting to remember things?
No.
Really?
Truly. It's like whole weeks have been cut out of my memory. I have a vague recollection of waking up in a bed somewhere with you and Belle hovering. Or was that... Now that's getting murky.
That could have been 4 different women. Belinda had you hidden upstairs at a classy hook shop.
Yeah, that's murk. Before that, though, it's all a dark place. Not just vague, but a big black obsidian chunk of nothing. Then murk before that. I know I was walking, not sneaking, but being unobtrusive. I don't think I was following anybody. I don't know where I was coming from. Something caught me from behind.
Morley? Taken by surprise? Wow. He jumped as though pricked. His eyes lost focus. He started speaking fluent, incoherent. Old Bones was feeling benevolent. He filled my head with Morley's recollections of what had set him off. There was a woman, vague, becoming clearer as she approached. She was tall and slim and wore black leather. She moved with natural, sensual arrogance. Her hair was big and almost old lady grey. She was far from old, though. She might be just starting her 20s. Her mouth was small, but her lips puffed a bit. They were an intense red. Those lips held the only stark color in the picture. The vision faded. Morley's mind slipped into the murk, then plunged into the obsidian oblivion. I collected myself. I didn't recognize her. Old Bones fed the vision back to Morley.
Me neither. And I wouldn't forget those lipses.
The one task I gave John Salvation, because he was desperate to be included, was to recruit an artist unafraid to work with me. Once we develop portraits, we may be able to make identifications. Portraits. Plural. General Block has generously agreed to lend us Jimmy 2 steps. Singe proved she was being included.
Why hire an artist? Let Penny do it. She has the talent and the materials. She lives close by and she could get started right now.
She is also insanely timid around Garrett. I will promise her to defend whatever virtue she pretends to have left. Oh, Catty! Singe had a problem with Penny Dreadful too? This was news to me. Of course, after being away so long, everything was news to me. Do both, I suggested. At least once. We'll see if two different artists see the same thing. And, while we're borrowing the king's property, why not take a look at Butch and his brother? I tendered that request. It came too late. The younger man was released because he cooperated fully. The other received a minimal sentence to the aqueduct project. Then, oh ho, this could be interesting.
Singe, please stand by at the door.
Chapter 55. My heart jumped into my throat. There was only one person this could be. Despite all my thought, I wasn't ready. So while I headed into panic mode, the Windwalker contributed by coming down to see what was going on. The amusement exuded by the dead man was overwhelming. Singe opened the door. Colda came in. Hey, Garrett, I think I found remedies for both your friends. Good on you, Brother Colda. Tell me about it. My relief was so huge I was about to pee my pants. More amusement. Colda produced a half-dozen small bottles. These brown ones are for your poisoned friend. The one with the green stopper will help his memory. The one with the red stopper will work on the poison. The one with the clear stopper will make him piss. A lot. He'll want a lot of water. Let him drink as much as he wants. It'll flush his body out. The blue bottles are for your sick friend. I wrote the instructions out so you don't have to remember them. Colda was pleased with himself. I would have to give him some strokes. He had done good. Singe was still standing by the door. I said, You want to take these instructions? I'll lose them just going down the hall.
Put the paper on my desk. I'm busy. She began sliding bolts back.
I panicked all over again. And with no more need, when I shambled back from putting the medicines and instructions on Singe's desk, with the latter carefully weighted down by the former, I found Colda pressed back against the far wall of the hall, completely rattled. Dee Dee, Crush, and Miss T filled the hall with bounce, beauty, and chatter. Dee Dee was in a blood sport mood. She had Colda picked for the weakest game on the plane and thought he needed tormenting. I blurted, What are you three doing here? Ever the boy with the golden tongue. I'm glad I made a good impression, but... Miss T moved into my personal space. I cringed back into Singe's office. She chucked me under the chin.
We have the evening off. We couldn't stay away.
Crush came in close too, but she was just looking past me. Strafa Algarda descended the stair again, drawn by the hubbub. She began to glower. Likewise, Singe from the doorway end of the hallway. I said, Morley is in the room on the left, right there.
Thank you.
This is where you live? You must do pretty good.
Crush asked. I was lucky on a couple of jobs, and I work with people who are the best at what they do. Singe kept scowling. She was seriously irked about something. Crush looked at her, Calda now getting his breath and color back, and the Windwalker. She saw something I didn't, she said. I see books. Can I look? Singe gave a grudging nod. She may have gotten advice from the dead man. Sure, come on. They aren't mine, though, so don't touch. Some kind of joyful reunion commenced in the other room. Morley Dotes and Miss T were old friends after all.
Are they the witches' books?
The woman at the end of the hall. It's obvious. Crush asked. The witch? She might resent being called a witch. She's a lot more. Height of the hill. A Windwalker. No. The books are Singe's, the one who let you in. Amazed. Truly. She is the smartest person I know, human or rat. I couldn't survive without her.
No need to mention the dead man.
He had to be in heaven, slithering through the secrets buried in all these fresh minds. He'd never use what he found, likely, but he would feel good knowing. He had to be in heaven, complete with this whole mess. He was learning a lot of the secrets of this dark old city, or so it must seem after a long dry spell.
Be careful, Garrett. That crumpet will fall in love with you for Singe's books.
More amusement, I asked Crush. Didn't you want to see Morley?
Really? Not so much. Dee Dee is enough competition for Mike.
I didn't follow. I heard the front door open and close. Now what? I went to look. Crush crowded up to peek past me. Penny Dreadful had arrived. She was loaded with artist's stuff. She froze when she saw me looking. I couldn't resist. I winked. Her gaze shifted to Crush, who wasn't much older than she. She scowled. Crush glared. Penny headed for the door to the dead man's room. Calda opened it. I asked Crush, "Do you know Penny?" "Kid has lived a rough life." I sketched it. Crush was not impressed. She had some background of her own. "Singe, how did Penny know we needed her help?"
I have skills, partner. I sent a message.
She gave Crush a look that should have caused bone bruises. She was not feeling charitable toward any female today. The dead man finally clued me to something he should have mentioned as soon as I came into range. It is her estrus time, and today is its peak. She has taken drugs to suppress the effects. Those are not entirely efficacious where the psychological indications are concerned. I do enjoy these newcomers. I had quite forgotten how colorful some of your acquaintances can be.
Only by type.
She was jealous when she saw me. Crush said, "What? The Windwalker? Singe? Penny?" That roused the logic beast and got it shambling. It fed on things that had been happening the past few days. Singe no longer consciously entertained the adolescent fantasies she had suffered when first we teamed up, but I was top rat around here. She might have formed a deep-down attachment that got the salt in the raw wound treatment when she was in heat. Time to be careful. She was taking some potent drugs. The rat thugs who were in and out never responded to her. Dollar Dan had been nursing a yearning for Singe since John Stretch took over as #1 rat gangster. Dan would be watching for an opportunity. All right. Singe didn't like anyone female right now because they were competition for the boss rat's attention. Tinny must be way up on her transitory list. But Tinny wasn't here. Strafa Algarda was. And Crush, who was just a kid. Crush slipped past, stepped down the hall, glanced back, gave me an unwarranted gotcha look that I would have expected from Dee Dee first. That had to be for her own benefit. She thought she had proven that I could be manipulated even when I was trying to be a good guy. Singe smoldered. How long would this last? Would this be her worst day? I hoped. I then realized that she had not left the door. Oh God and all his saints defend me. All I needed was for the redhead to walk into this menagerie. The only female in the place Tinny would trust might be Penny, and that would change the instant she got a look at how Penny had grown. Someone knocked. Singe started undoing bolts. Chapter 56. Calda sort of half-whimpered. "You don't got any more need for me, Garrett. I'd better get on out of here." Body language screamed that he was a liar. What he really wanted was to dive into the visiting mob. Team Fire and Ice could have their way with him till the stretcher-bearers carried him away. Trudy don't like it if she has to wait up. Who was Trudy? Fiancé. That old devil time playing tricks again. Did Calda have a wife back when he was trying to poison me? I thought so, but couldn't remember for sure. Well, he didn't have one now. The woman he did have scared him, though not as much as the fantasies tormenting him here. If you got to go, you got to go. You wouldn't want to miss supper on account of these beasts. Are you having trouble, Singe?
That idiot out there keeps pushing on the door. This bolt won't slide if there's pressure. I had it made that way. Ah, I've got it now.
She let the door swing. In came John's Salvation and a companion recently escaped from a homeless shelter. The latter lugged gear similar to what Penny had dragged in. His was seedier. He was seedier by an order of magnitude. He needed to discover soap and water. He needed to steal some clean clothes. And he maybe ought to forego the next dozen bottles of ardent spirits. His hair was a wild gray tangle. I shuddered to think what vile livestock he was importing into my house. He was shorter than Salvation, and a whole lot dumpier. He was the epicenter of a fierce medley of smells.
This is the Bird, Garrett. Bird, this is the guy who needs your help. Singe, can you show the Bird where to set up?
He turned. He nudged me a few steps toward the kitchen.
You have any hard liquor? The Bird has a problem inside his head. He needs the stuff to keep the voices quiet.
I opened my mouth with intent to remind the remora what he was known to be full of. I received a gentle cautionary brush from the dead man. Voices? Really?
You need to see it to believe it. This guy is a genius. When he has just the right amount of firewater in him, so the voices are softer, he paints like an angel.
I believed Salvation. I had run into something like that before. I asked Salvation, "You have any idea what Bird's real feelings about his madness are?"
What do you mean?
Does he want the voices to go away?
Wouldn't you?
I would. Yes. But would you? If that meant that you wouldn't have the magic to be a playwright anymore?
You're thinking that the dead man might be able to shut the mental doors on his demons.
Might. Come down here one more step. I looked into the room where Morley was taking the attentions of several beautiful women as his birthright. Crush. Got a minute? Young Hellbore turned away from her mother and Madam Mike. She showed me a teen's practiced expression combining boredom, embarrassment, and disgust. What? Her expression did not improve when she glanced at my companion. I told you that if I got the chance I'd introduce you to John's Salvation. This is him. I told the remora, Crush likes your plays. The kid got mad. Of course. But she didn't make a scene. I couldn't see the big deal. This here was Pilsud's Vilchik, the remora, a weasel who tagged along behind a friend of mine. He whined a lot, got underfoot, and had a twist in his brain that left him unable to see what Winger really was. I considered Winger a friend but had no illusions about her character. The idea that this noxious squirt could become a major celebrity was entirely ridiculous. Singe came out of the dead man's room. The Bird delivered. He should have no problem with old bones. He was used to having voices inside his head. She looked at me, Salvation, Crush, leapt to some evil conclusion, shaking her head.
I'm going to have a cup of tea before any more complications come up. Guard my office.
I didn't get that, unless she was concerned for the sanctity of her books. Crush and John's Salvation got along like Hellbore and Pilsud's Vilchik. He was not the giant she had sculpted in her imagination. And she was just another empty-headed kid who asked the same Nimrod questions he had heard 1,000 times before. Singe came out of the kitchen carrying a tray with a teapot, sandwiches, and cups.
Join me. This place is turning into a zoo filled with human exotica.
You got used to the quiet life.
I did. And I find the habit hard to break. Eat. This is likely all we'll get for supper. Dean is exhausted. The sorceress is going to help him get upstairs.
She's good for something then.
Don't do that when I'm starting to not like her a whole lot less. I'm stressed enough. And it will only get worse. We have no hard liquor.
Old Bones ask for it?
He thinks he may be able to create a similar effect, but wants the real thing handy.
We could send Salvation out.
Winger drinks, doesn't she?
Yes. Do I need to have Belinda get us out of your hair?
She couldn't get here in time.
The poor girl sounded like she was about to slide away into despair. You want to head upstairs yourself, Singe?
I'd better stay.
I can handle this crowd.
Maybe now. How about half an hour from now? You're too far gone. I still love you, but you aren't the man you used to be.
The Windwalker joined us. Singe neither protested nor betrayed any distaste. In fact, there was a cup for Straffa on the tray she had carried in. Was peace about to break out, or was Singe just too tired to fight? I asked.
Everyone out there is still being civilized.
A woman and 2 girls are fussing over your injured friend. There are 3 men and a girl in with your dead friend. The 3 of us are here, and the poisoner is missing.
I let Calder out after John's salvation got here.
Straffa said. Singe said.
So?
Crush was in with Morley and Salvation was with the dead man. That was a brief romance. Poor Remora. He couldn't be what his fan wanted him to be. Chapter 57. Though there was babble from next door and some sort of foreboding from across the way, all was calm and relaxed in Singe's office. Tea got sipped, not much got said. Straffa, Singe, and I relaxed.
The caretakers and night guards should be here soon. I expect John Stretch will come with them. I'm going to draw a picture of the dark.
After a time, the dark was the most potent beer we had. I had been unaware of its presence till now. The cold well must have been modified to handle multiple kegs. Singe's tail vanished round the edge of the doorway.
She doesn't like me.
No, but she's mellowing.
Why doesn't she like me?
She thinks you're trying to push into our lives. She feels threatened. She's fragile. I made no mention of her season. Maybe the dead man could explain that later in a way that made sense to a human woman. The Windwalker sipped tea and frowned delicately. She seemed waif-like and vulnerable.
How could I injure her?
I gave Old Bones a few seconds to caution me before I said, she sees all women in the mirror of Tinny Tate. The redhead had to come up sometime.
The abrasive woman who was there for some of the excitement at the World Theater back when.
That would be Tinny.
You're still involved.
You know my situation perfectly well.
I might have looked into it.
She smiled a wan, forlorn little smile. Singe never liked Tinny much. She feels guilty about that. She thinks she should like Tinny because I like her. So now she feels like she needs to be a voice speaking for Tinny because Tinny can't speak for herself. Today she found out that both Dean and my partner across the way approve of you, so she feels more pressured.
I see.
She glowed like a kid who had just won a tough race against outstanding competition. I was surprised, too.
Yes?
The glow waxed stronger. The woman was amazing. She might be who she was, one of the dozen most powerful mortals living, with potential for growth, but she was as naive as a 10-year-old in some ways. She was starved for approval.
She's right about one thing. I mean to steal you away.
She said that straightforwardly, without a hint of the fierce sensual aura she had used to taunt men back when she was daddy's girl. She stated a fact and left it for me to digest.
You're going too fast.
Singe returned with 2 pitchers and 4 mugs. She meant to do some drinking and did not plan to do it by herself. I sniffed a pitcher. I'm in. She had brought summer ale as well as the dark.
You pour. I have to get the door.
My stomach plunged to the... Chapter 58. My panic went to waste again. Singe did not admit red-headed doom. Neither did she bring in her brother and the lady rats who nannied Morley Dotes. What she did admit was General Westman Block and 2 nervous villains so obviously low life that they might as well have it tattooed on their foreheads. One was the younger of the pair who had come after me and Tinny. The Redtops had tracked him down. Reason suggested that the skinny, shaky little weasel must be Jimmy Two-Steps. Singe came back, took her seat, drank some beer.
Is it all right if I hang out in here till Didi and Mike get over that guy? I'll stay out of the way.
Fine by me. Singe, all right if she looks at your books. Of course it wasn't all right. And any animus she felt towards Straffa she was willing to dump on tasty young hellbore. But she said,
Please be gentle and make sure your fingers are clean.
Garrett, I hate to beg, but God's damn, I need to drink something.
Then the general joined us. Which reminded me, Singe, how about fuel for that lunatic artist John Salvation brought? How did she know that? She hadn't left the house, and Calder went before the dead man put in his request. Old Bones must have sent word to someone outside. That was the only thing that made sense.
Something will arrive soon. General, would you like to try the Weeder Dark Reserve? It's a limited production brew that few outside the Weeder family get to taste.
How can I resist? Count me in, Miss Pular.
Singe, you wonder child. Even the head of the whole damn Tin Whistle tribe considers you a real person, which thinking I masked with a stone-neutral visage. Block was impressed despite having been around Singe since her adolescence. It felt good seeing my baby treated like one of the gang instead of a freak or half-wit vermin. Big thumping at the door. I had heard the wolf cry so often that Tinny and all the freckle-speckled red-headed tates in the world could be out there, and I wouldn't raise more than a half-assed whimper. Nor did I need to. Singe opened up for her brother, Dollar Dan, and 2 rat women. They brought distilled spirits enough to keep the bird fueled for weeks. Singe hijacked a bottle. She poured a half mug for the general.
There's a real drink.
I'll take some of that, please.
No, you're too young for dizzy water.
Crush was startled. Then she laughed. Then, shaking her head, she went back to looking at Singe's books. John Stretch joined us, looking Block askance. Dollar Dan and the rat women took up space in the hallway outside the room where Morley was holding court.
I suspect that pretty young girls who ask for something that will impair their judgment seldom hear the word no.
Crush raised a hand in a gesture of agreement. She had found something to fascinate her. She handled the book reverently. Crush fascinated Westman Block, but he would not cross that line. Odd, women definitely interested the general. I never heard of one getting close. No doubt there was a sad old story. There were plenty of those around. He emptied his mug quickly and did not refuse a refill.
The resurrection men are back at works.
Like that dovetailed into the conversation. Singe gave her brother her mug, filled with summer ale. He lifted that to me. Stropha generated a squeak that drew the attention of everyone but Crush. I didn't find out why because, after another pull of the water of life.
Those men in the gray wool tights and pullovers with the wooden headgear from the incident on the north side? They were fix-ups, made from pieces of dead peoples.
Jaws dropped. Crush let her book fall to her waist. Stropha made gurgling noises. Way to introduce a subject, I said. My mug was empty. I decided to give the dizzy water a try.
Blame the drink. I'm not supposed to let that get out.
Interesting. More civil guard disobedience. Clear as iron, Block and Railway were way not happy with outside pressure. Their scorn for the rules suggested that they had gotten quiet assurances from Prince Rupert that he would notice nothing if somebody did babble too much after a mug of beer. Somewhat nimbly, Singe moved into the hallway again, headed for the door. She needed to be nimble to get through the crowd. I took a long sip of firewater and tried to run a census. I couldn't come up with a firm number, but there had to be 17 or 18 warm bodies cluttering the place. I was way out of practice for the social life. A little beer, a few sips of ardent spirits, and I was totally relaxed. I no longer had a care. Nothing troubled me. I looked at Stropha without a professional thought in my head. She looked back, one eyebrow lifted slightly. Her small mouth betrayed a ghost of a smile of invitation, agreement, or triumph. Chapter 59. Singe said something out in the hallway. I didn't catch the words, but her tone was troubled. John Stretch and I both got up and headed that way, me wondering where I had left my stick and how trouble had gotten close with the dead man on the job. John Stretch put that together quicker than I did. He stopped. I bumped into him, not hard. Singe returned to the office, headed straight for the cup she had given her brother. Had she been human, she would have been pale and grim. The reason was a step behind her. A fine-looking redhead hove into view. That was Kyra Tate, Tinny's teenage niece, at first glance a dead ringer for her aunt. In the instant it took me to realize that Kyra was not my dearly beloved. The master redhead herself materialized. Kyra was just a little older than Crush. She came with manifest teen attitude. She did not want to be here, though it soon became evident that it had been her idea to come. Behind her, Tinny slowed down, jaw descending, as she took in the size and makeup of the crowd. General Block lifted his mug to Tinny.
Good evening, Miss Tate. May I say how very handsome you look tonight?
He could get away with talking to her like she was an old lady. If I said something like that, I would regret it for months. Behind Tinny came her Uncle Oswald. Behind Uncle was Cousin Artifice, who had a reputation as a brawler. I nearly laughed watching Tinny's reaction to each presence. Stropha should have fallen down whimpering and crawled under something. Crush should have collapsed into a pile of ash. Wow. And you still have to meet Dee Dee and Mike. And to see how Penny has grown. Which I did not say out loud. She wouldn't have heard me anyway. She had taken on a glazed look in a faraway voice.
I have to see the man across the hall.
Said entity touched me ever so lightly, without a word, offering the gentlest of reassurances. Tinny had arrived primed for a knockdown, drag-out, once-and-forever showdown, but had been, from the moment Singe let her in, thrown off stride. There were rat people everywhere. There were numerous human people too, including the commander of the police, and a highly placed sorceress off the hill. And now she had been summoned to the presence of his Nibs, where she would encounter yet another crop of amazing guests. Singe collected herself. She asked the other Tates if they would like refreshments. Uncle Oswald nodded.
I'll throw a tantrum if you let her have anything tastier than tea.
Never looking up. Kyra knew she was the subject but had no idea why. I explained. Underage drinking. Singe doesn't approve. Singe, you better check and make sure Penny isn't sneaking anything.
The same rules apply. Your sense of humor never improves.
She and Old Bones both really liked that kid. I never got why. But, so what? I have foibles of my own. I asked Kyra, how come you're down here slumming? She was giving Stropha a suspicious look. She remembered the Windwalker. No need to explain Artifice and Uncle Oswald. The old man was looking out for the Tate family dignity. Artifice was there to get his butt kicked if Tinny tried to make her points physically. Also to make sure she got around safely. Those streets out there were getting mean again. Blatant amusement slithered through the ether from the thing across the hall. No cause apparent. Block recognized Oswald. They were involved in some charity together, but only as distant acquaintances. They engaged in a clumsy exchange. Stropha moved closer, as though to protect me. Kyra and Artifice overlooked that, because they had become fascinated by Crush Kyra, maybe because she thought someone her own age had to be as unhappy to be here as she was. Artifice was interested for the reason any man would be. Crush, just standing there, begged for solicitous male attention. So toothsome was my little hellbore. There was, of course, no way Artifice could know that the bloom was gone from that rose, and what remained was mostly thorn. Crush was not wearing work clothes. Kyra?
Sorry, Garrett. It's kind of embarrassing.
She forgot Crush. I don't remember you being long on shy. She could be more forceful and straightforward than her aunt. She hadn't had as much practice pretending to be socialized. Many killers are sociopaths, but only a small percentage of sociopaths are killers. Tinny was the non-lethal sort. So far,
I'm not used to having an audience.
Ha! Her problem wasn't Stropha the General or John Stretch. Her problem was Artifice and Uncle Oswald. Bend down here. Whisper.
He wants to look down your blouse.
Humorous, hellbore, but unfair. She isn't showing a neckline. Furious Tide of Light tried wilting Crush with her stare. Crush went back to her book. Singe arrived with more mugs, more beer, and muffins. That distracted the male Tates. Kyra dropped to her knees beside me.
I'm having trouble with Kip. That's really why I talked Tinny into coming. You know Kip. You can give me some advice.
Amazing, I said in a conversational voice. Stropha had now posted herself behind me, leaning on the back of my chair. Singe was not pleased, but her disapproval was so mild that only I got it. There's a huge chance that I'm the last guy you should ask for relationship advice, but I'll give it a shot.
I'm 17 now, Garrett. Kip and I have been together. Well, what it is. I don't want to be like you and Aunt Tinny, going on and on and on, and never. Oh, I don't blame you. What's wrong between you and Tinny is mostly Tinny's fault. She could have wrapped everything up years ago if she wanted. Now she might lose you.
Crush made some snide remark about "here's your chance" under her breath. She got the hard eye from Strafa. Kyra ignored her.
Anyway, I decided I don't want her advice anymore. I want Kip. Not the satisfaction of sitting alone in my room feeling smug about how I showed him. No games, now and forever.
Way to go, Cypress Pros. You got one of the hottest girls on the continent bewitched. Amazing, nerd boy. How the hell it... But it looked like he was close to losing her, probably without realizing there was a problem. Kyra, I'm on your side. You're the best thing that ever happened to that boy. So what's the problem? Is he just being his usual dim self? Can't see what's there in front of him unless you smack him between the eyes? I tried mentoring the boy, back when. We had some things in common.
It's sort of like what's going on with you and Tinny. Only I believed him when he said a friend of his is in trouble and needs his help. My problem is, he shuts me out of that whole side of his life.
Kyra ran out of steam. She had said it all, for the moment. But Tate women seldom stay silent long. I tried to work out what she meant. Kip did not have many friends. Strafa still leaned on the back of my chair. Her knuckles were white. Kyra avoided looking at her even though she should have been curious. Oh, it was the faction again. The friend in need must be Kevin's, a friend Kip had helped despite all, back when the Windwalker and I first met. When Kevins and Kip got their heads together, technical miracles happened. They invented strange and wonderful things. Kyra's concern fed Strafa's. Strafa was hard-pressed because she was still afraid that Kevins might be the girl in the tight black leather, despite believing that Kevins had an alibi for... She did think Kevins was capable of behavior this foul. That was the key. Oh my. My new ally, who might become a special new friend, could end up an enemy because the thing she feared most might turn out to be true. Alibis can be manufactured, before and after the fact. I had no trouble imagining Kevins dealing with resurrection men either. I'd never gotten to know her well, but I recalled a sociopathic personality. Yet that had been true of most of the faction, and she had not been the worst. That might be an angle worth pursuit. So, maybe Kevins had been living in that warehouse up north, making new men out of the best pieces of the old. Where would she get money to pay the resurrection men? Kip, I rested my right hand on Strafa's where hers lay on the back of my chair.
What?
She can't afford it. Think. Where would Kevins get enough money to set up what you saw on the north side? Kyra became intensely interested in my hands and dialogue. No doubt Tinny would get a detailed report. And I, being Garrett the Wonderfool, had to ease Strafa's dreads by saying, Kevins could never look as good in black leather as... Maybe not. When I knew her, Kevins had been pretending to be a boy. If she took after her mom, she could make that leather smolder. Taking a wild shot at making Strafa feel better because her kid was weirdly built was one of those special moments that make me uniquely me. An instant after it was too late to avoid getting shoe leather caught between my teeth, I had no trouble imagining a dozen voices telling me what an insensitive dumbass I was. One was not imaginary, it came from the thing across the hall and was heavy with exasperation. But that morphed into a vague apology. If I understood right, he was taking out on me frustrations developed while conversing with the redhead. Tinny had shown complete disdain for reality. I was amazed. He had lost patience and pushed her out, a tactical error for sure. Even today's more difficult Tinny is amenable to reason if you put in some time. You do need to be patient, to avoid preaching and rational argument. You need to be intense while you present your position. Worried or scared works best. Then you should shut up and go away. You need to have it end up looking like her agreeing with you was her idea. Which is more work than most guys are willing to do. It's been getting a lot like involuntary overtime for me too lately. Old Bones thought facts and figures should trump emotion. He was a little out of touch with the raw intensity of the living, yet could get irked by a stubborn woman. He wasn't fond of that sex to begin with. It had taken him an age to warm to Tinny as much as he ever did. It had taken him time to get used to Singe, but they were at peace now.
He'd never had a problem with Penny Dreadful, maybe because Penny came to us before puberty came to her. He had few reservations about Strafa Algarda, who was, for sure, simmering past puberty. His ability to be amused by my obsessions and angst remained undiminished. I heard Tinny talking in the hallway, presumably to Morley. She wouldn't know Dee Dee or Mike. Her tone wasn't hostile. I was able to exhaust her reserves of venom. Too many eyes were watching. I couldn't get into a conversation. Old Bones found that amusing too, because half the current population of the house thought he was snoozing. I focused on Kyra, though Uncle Oswald and Artifice might be more trouble. And, while I obsessed about Tates, never so drunk as he pretended Westman Block committed every nuance to memory. Singe and her brother exchanged significant glances. And Crush went on being every man's sweet young fantasy, pretending to be oblivious while she appreciated Singe's literary treasures. Kyra and Strafa continued to measure one another. I grumbled. What can we toss into this to add a little flavor? How about some hot spice? Hot Spice debuted, her advent entirely civil. I wore her down. One quick glance told me that nobody but Ma Garrett's ever-loving blue-eyed baby boy was intimidated. Tinny stopped in the doorway. She eyed each individual, recognizing everyone but Crush. Crush didn't do her the honor of turning to see who had come in. Tinny frowned when she looked at Strafa, whom she had seen briefly before. She was impressed. In one room she had found the commander of the police forces of the greatest city in the world, the chieftain of a major underworld operation, a major player off the hill, and me. Clever Strafa had relaxed the intimacy of the distance between us before Tinny arrived, though not by much. After visiting the dead man and Morley, Tinny could not help but understand that what was going on here was not just a conspiracy to inconvenience her. She is starting to get it. Take her out on the stoop and explain it. I hoisted myself out of my chair, mug in hand, with murmured encouragement from the Windwalker. And, for the God's sake, do not make yourself a sacrificial victim on the altar of let us all just get along. What did he mean by that? I mean, do not just give her way because you do not like arguing. This is important. There followed a psychic echo of a kitten crying, then the crack of a whip. Hey! He showed me letting myself be bullied by persons of the female persuasion, all the way back to my mother, but specializing in incidents that gave a certain redhead the hold she had gained over the course of our relationship. Well, you are standing there with a dumb look on your face, practically drooling, while a dozen people stare and start to wonder. Oh. Right. Old Bones was staging plays inside my noggin. I wondered if he was doing the same thing inside hers. I did hope. I said, let's you and me go out on the stoop where we can talk.
Chapter 61. It was a quiet night. The sky was clear. The moon would not be up for a while. There were 1 trillion stars. In some parts of the sky there was more silver dust than darkness. None of the watchers in the shadows made themselves obvious. The men who had accompanied Block had gone to find a tavern. We had the night to ourselves. Neither of us said anything till a shooting star blazed across the firmament, headed west in a hurry. Then it exploded. For an instant, TunFaire was bathed in pallid light. This may be the most important night in our lives, Tinny. She responded with an inarticulate sound that seemed weighted down with sorrow. She pushed against me like she was cold. She was shivering. I told her, we've known each other for a long time. I can't imagine my life without you in it, but I can't go on the way we've been. I can't be what you want. Those people in there are important in my life too. The last light of the dying star glistened off a tear. She said nothing. My heart sank. Old Bones had failed. She would remain stubborn till the end. Proceed gently, Garrett. All is not lost. Even though he liked Strafa Algarda better than this woman whom he knew so much better.
Garrett, I love you. You know that. I have forever. I could say something corny like you complete me. I can't imagine myself with any other man. Whatever I said, however I behaved, whatever else happened in our lives, that's been true since I was a kid and you used to come around to see Denny. Ever since then, I've tried hard to understand the Garrett who operates outside the closed field of you and me, but I can't anymore. I know I shouldn't be so selfish. I know I'm twisting away into a darkness that some people might consider insanity, but I'm obsessed. I can't share you anymore. I can't. The monster inside wants to push it to the point where there is no one but you and me, no work, no distractions, just us. I know that's crazy, but I can't stop it.
Now she had me scared. What she says is true, but right now she is trying to manipulate you through exaggeration. Nevertheless, that exaggeration is being built on a truth from a level so deep it has never emerged before. Can you help? Tinny was a major part of my life. I had loved her, maybe too often from a distance, almost as long as she said she had loved me. But I was not obsessed. I had been in love before. The rational side of my mind told me I would survive if the pain insisted on coming. The adventure called Strafa Elgarda waited on the other side. I knew that. Strafa offered a chance for an adult cooperative relationship. I looked at Tinny and wondered how she had gotten to this point.
The dead man has been inside my head trying to show me things. He says you're part of a network of friendships and obligations. He says there's a fine woman who wants to be important to you, but you still look only toward me.
What game was Old Bones playing? Tinny surrendered to racking sobs. The problem here is that a part of her mind does remain fully rational. That fraction knows she is crazy. It knows that obsession drives her, but it has no control. It remains a prisoner inside the growing obsession. I can't believe it. How could it happen? Could Kolda come up with an herb? Can you do some kind of surgery? I might be able. But you will need to convince Miss Tate that she wants to have the corrective work done. And there is the further question of the strength of your own emotional commitment. I ignored Strafa. Thought a question about working Tinny and this case in parallel. That might be possible, assuming she agreed. Curses. I would have to search her mind memory by memory and hurt by hurt to find tipping points in need of adjustment or cauterization. Each such tipping point will have affected every other that followed. It is a three-dimensional problem. The surgery would be far more subtle than an abuse victim like Miss Elgarda needs. She is content with the life she has lived, and there would be no guarantees.
You and him are talking about me, aren't you?
We are. I pulled her into my arms. As always, she felt exactly right being there, designed to fit. She cried. I cried. I told her we can work this out, if you let it work out, if you let Old Bones make some minor adjustments. I'm going to let him work on me. That was off the top of my head and next to a bald-faced lie. Any refinements my mind needed he would have made already without mentioning it. Maybe. Scary thought that. Nobody wants to be told that they need fixing, even when they know it themselves. Tinny's natural first reaction was rejection. I kept on holding her tight. I said nothing. Talk would not help. What could be talked about had been talked about. Changes in us would lead to changes in the conversation. I thought there was a chance. I thought we could find a way. Uncle Oswald opened the door, checking up. He had a mug in hand. The rosy glow in his cheeks said he was hard at it, enjoying my hospitality. He didn't see any guts strewn about, so he grunted and shut the door. The clinch went on. Tinny relaxed slowly, surrendering to need. We had to go on. She had to fight the obsession that would make it impossible to do so. I was confused for sure. I had this, familiar and mostly comfortable though always freighted with emotion and drama. I had Strafa in the background, exercising a surprisingly powerful pull, not the way it used to be with any female between 7 and 70. That draw was there too, absolutely. But there was more to it. An intellectual intrigue and a certainty that Strafa Elgarda would involve a lot less drama. Thou foul beast, temptation! I felt the amusement of the invisible observer. It was a classic tough situation. Tinny had the lead by a furlong at the moment. She was as comfortable as an old shoe once she relaxed against me. But Strafa could pull even or push ahead with very little effort if Tinny wasn't there to rattle my reason. The invisible observer suggested, "It is time to come inside. Something is moving in the darkness. You do not want to be out there should it come this way." Chapter 62. The dead man's big party rolled on. I led Tinny into his lair. The temperature had risen there. The air had begun to smell because of the crowd. Penny and the bird worked on their art. Jimmy Two Steps and Butch's little brother occupied a couple of folding chairs, out of the way, eyes closed, maybe unconscious. Old Bones might be picking their brains. There's not much there to pick, in any sense. The lighting was better than usual on behalf of the artists. The lamps contributed to the rise in temperature. Playmate's color had improved. It had more depth and sheen. Still, he would be a long-term project and would demand a lot from the dead man at a time when all the rest of this was going on. Old Bones was a miracle in defunct flesh, but he did have limits. When would he have time to work on Tinny? A complication that I am pleased you recognized before I had to bring it up myself. A scheduling problem I will be happy to leave in your keeping. Meaning? I looked over Penny's shoulder. She had several sketches going, all of a very attractive girl. She was doing a sheet of full-body images in different orientations and hairdos. I could say nothing but, wow. Tinny failed to poke me. She just looked astonished and envious. You are allowing imagination and expectation to carry you away. It is the daring choice of costume that makes the woman so striking. Miss Tate and her niece would appear equally impressive in that apparel. I said nothing but thought the younger Miss Tate might have an edge on the elder. Amusement. I'm not dead. I noticed things. I watched Penny work. She was talented and quick and had no trouble being close to me while she used charcoal and a variety of amalgamated writing sticks to shape her squad of fantasy girls. The bird had a color portrait going. It made an ugly, lazy-eyed son of a bitch look like he was about to bark, lean forward, and take a bite. Tinny seemed at a loss. I caught the edge as the dead man asked her to step back and stay out of the way. I asked, "Who is this wad?" A composite of details from many minds. I am not certain, but he may be the boss of the Resurrection Men. How did we get to that? Mr. Bird, under my direction, is creating a portrait composed of bits taken from the minds of everyone who has come into range since I awakened. Resurrection Men are part of what is going on in an angle going unexplored. They gather the bodies that get re-engineered. This man could be of special interest. If we can find him. He was right. It was an approach that had not occurred to me. Most of our visitors never heard of him. A few have, under the singleton name Nathan. None of our friends or anyone else know that they have actually met him, but some may have done so without realizing it. And that, with his wondrous ability to make unlikely connections click, was why the dead man was so valuable. I said, "He looks a little like Barate Algarda." It felt like the warmth went out of the room. His nibs took a seat behind my eyes, studied the painting through my prejudices. Not Barate Algarda. The eye, the nose, the scar. The man had a burn scar on the right side of his head, including part of his ear. Ask the Windwalker to come in here. Tinny started to follow me. She stumbled, stopped, turned, found a folding chair that she opened and carried back into the shadows. Damn. Maybe I could get Old Bones to teach me that trick. Straffa stared at the bird's masterpiece. The artist himself was on break, nursing a bottle of spirits.
I don't know him. He does look familiar.
Unaware that green eyes smoldered in the darkness behind us, she held onto my left arm with both of her hands. Those were shaky. I thought he looked like Barate Algarda. I could not call the man her father. She started. She squeezed harder.
He does, a little. That's weird.
She let go. She moved to view the painting from different angles. I have what I need. You may take her back, now. I asked Straffa, "So what do you think?"
I think it's weird.
Too bad. Well, that's all we needed. Crossing the hallway, I asked, "Do you know anyone who calls himself Nathan?"
No.
2 steps.
Wait. I think Dad's grandfather's name was Nathan. He died when I was 4. I remember pulling myself up by the edge of his coffin so I could look.
In the doorway to Singe's office.
He didn't have a burn scar.
Back in the dead man's room, I asked, "Any chance this guy could be a vampire?" Miss Algarda was truthful. She does not know him. I doubt that he is a vampire. His face does resemble that of the man Miss Algarda saw in a coffin when she was a child, though. Vampires did not last around TunFaire. Their suspected presence will unite classes and races like nothing else. Just as suspicion could lead to a frenzied hunt, this situation has the potential to turn as ugly as a vampire hunt, which argument may lie behind the hills go easy attitude. Vampire hunts always got out of hand. Innocents ended up with chopsticks through their hearts. The last full-blown vampire hunt had happened when I was 9. It had done more damage than any natural disaster since. Let me ask the general about that. Ask him to come view the painting. Block did not recognize the villain. He did concede that dread of an outbreak of mass hysteria might be the motive behind the hands-off orders being passed around. Might be. He was, innately, almost as suspicious as Deal Railway. Block having returned to his firewater, the dead man mused. We need to see Barate Algarda and his daughter, here. That is a task the Windwalker will have to undertake. That might be a tough sell. Hardly. She will be compliant to any request so long as you are a gentleman when you present it, and you explain the reason for it. I'd never had that kind of power in a relationship. It was scary. Miss Algarda is ceding that power in trust. If you breach her trust, you will reap a whirlwind more cruel than you can imagine. Way to build me up, Chuckles. It might be valuable to interview your intern, too. Intern? The boy. Cypress Prose. I will ask the Miss Tates to bring him in. Making the elder Miss Tate a part of a race against time might go a long way toward improving her attitude. The younger Miss Tate will want to look out for her man. I was skeptical. Chapter 63. I had to reach an understanding with Old Bones about our priorities. Once we acknowledged the most desperate 3 or 4 things, there would be, still, time-intensive tasks like honing the 10,000 quirks that defined the mind of Tinny Tate, all while he kept a sharp watch outside. You understand, I understood that everything would take precedence over reconfiguring my special redhead's mental works. Your judgment is better than mine. I can't take the emotion out of my choices. The dead man employs profanity infrequently. In a long-winded way, he informed me that I was a bone-lazy, backsliding purveyor of mushroom fertilizer, determined to avoid even the appearance of contributing anything useful to the conversation. Damn it, Old Bones! Life shouldn't ought to be this hard. Avoid responsibility now if you like. Do not whine when you face the fattened consequences later. The change was sudden. For an instant I thought the end had come. The apocalypse, the twilight, the rapture sudden as a dagger in the night. Morley shrieked, playmates screamed, Tinny moaned and collapsed. Penny Dreadful and the bird followed her to the floor. I blacked out for an instant. I found myself clinging to the frame of the door to the hallway after that instant. I had to concentrate to keep my supper down. Others had less success. The light had gone bad. Everything had turned sepia. Those moving did so jerkily. Bad smells developed as folks lost more than their suppers. Confusion reigned. Dread grew so powerful I knew it had to be artificial. The screaming ended. The screamers had passed out, but chatter waxed amongst the still conscious. None of it made any sense. No one panicked. Odd that. The initial shock came when the dead man dropped everything to focus on one problem. Something that demanding had to be a threat both powerful, lethal, and immediate. And I, ever-lovin' blue-eyed boy genius that I am, I stumbled up and opened the door for a quick look outside. Action was developing. A dozen people in gray wool costumes, their heads inside combination helmets and masks, were headed for the house. Most carried torches. A few were armed. One pair lugged a mini battering ram that would have dented my door good. Illegally armed ratmen closed in on them from behind. I found my head knocker and charged, partly because I suspected that a swarming attack would come from other directions as well. The attackers kept advancing because the dead man was not strong enough to stop so many. He did slow them till their charge looked like it was happening underwater. His situation would improve as the number of vertical villains declined. Fine theory, amply supported by the available evidence, but more easily thought than executed. The Greys did not respond well to my initial efforts. My club just bounced off. Lesson learned at the cost of getting dinged a few times. I shifted to kneecapping. The ratmen started hamstringing. Their efforts were more effective. Most of my male guests became involved. At some point, Jimmy Two Steps and Butch's brother realized they were under-supervised and the door was open. They took advantage. I pushed through the Greys. They did not turn on me. They wanted to turn the house into a bonfire. Then I was face to face with a woman in skin-tight black leather, gifted with the most stunning shape I'd ever seen. Penny's drawings didn't do her justice. She had a mountain of wildly curly white hair. A fierce former Marine bearing down did not rattle her. She seemed inclined to flirt. So beautiful. And the face of deep evil. She deserved neither quarter nor amnesty. We had not met before, but we had been at war from the moment those idiot brothers took money from Jimmy Two Steps. She thrust what looked like a stage magician's wand my way, ever so calmly, all in a day's work, slicing sausage at the butcher shop. Something hit her like a black lightning bolt to the right shoulder just before I knocked the wand out of her hand by running into it with my big manly chest. She wore the most wonderful look of incredulity. The wand delivered enough energy to make me bark and spin, flailing for airy handholds that had not yet been installed. I got one goofy, unforgettable snap view of furious tide of light straddling the front peak of my house, legs dangling, kicking, a 10-year-old up to mischief. She wore a big, happy grin. She flung another dark bolt, just a kid having fun saving her special friend from a villainess built to torment his fantasies. That nonsense rattled around inside my gourd for the few seconds it took me to fall asleep on those comfy Maconato Street cobblestones. I was out only briefly. Still, the excitement was over when consciousness came creeping back. Furious tide of light was there with me, now. My head was in her lap. That hurt like I had the mother of all hangovers. Her right hand was hot on my chest, over my heart, maybe delivering the strength I needed to push back the darkness. The agony in my head faded steadily. Ha! Had I discovered the cure for the common hangover? I flashed back to that incredible shape in black leather. That was one way somebody could have gotten close enough to stick Morley. That body would have distracted him. A touch of that wand would have left him unable to defend himself, though I suspected the dead man would have excavated the evidence if that had happened. That wasn't Kevin's. Only a liquid weakness kept me from shoving my foot farther down my throat by offering a qualitative comparison of physiques. Kevin's didn't bark, but there was no way she could make leather look that good. The time I needed to work up strength was time enough for me to see that I was about to munch a filthy shoe. She did seem familiar, though. I must have seen her somewhere. She had been wearing rain gear at the time, or old feed sacks. Otherwise, the moment would be seared onto the backs of my eyeballs.
Hush, love. The danger is over. Your friends are cleaning up.
It was true. The action was done. The street was carpeted with bodies, not a one twitching. Several torches still burned on the cobblestones. I was awed because tin whistles were not shrilling. General Block was studying the scene carefully. He was both grim and puzzled. The neighbors began to come out. I heard both negative and laudatory comments. The consensus was, this stuff didn't happen when I wasn't around. Tin whistles did begin to arrive, from the direction of the Cardonlos house. That old biddy owed me. I was home and she was back in business. Sleep returned. Whatever the bad girl hit me with, it drained me. I missed my opportunity to see Tinny spot me amongst the fallen, being tended by my sorceress friend. I missed the cleanup too. The red tops carted off 19 stiffs in gray wool. The lethal blonde and 20 grays got away. Stropha should have chased them instead of fussing over me. Tinny did not head home in high dudgeon. She couldn't. Uncle Oswald and Cousin Artifice both had been injured. Oswald could not travel except by coach. Singe sent a runner to the Tate family compound.
Chapter 64. They tossed me in with Morley, to start. onto the cold, hard floor. Injured people were everywhere, especially against the walls in the hallway. Given the chance to do more than brood and fuss, Westman Block showed us why he had Prince Rupert's confidence. He sent people flying around everywhere. He roused the guard across the city. He came by to tell me they were all dead. The things in the wool tights. They were made from pieces of dead peoples.
Well,
That did not seem possible. Not in such numbers. Where had the bodies come from? That many people disappearing, dead or alive, should have become a major public issue. We knew, now, beyond doubt, that there was a connection with Morley and with the break-in on Factory Slide. We knew that several people had to be involved. 2 women, 1 old, 1 young, and, possibly, a stuffed bear-loving kid. Plus the resurrection men. I wanted to ask questions but could not. Straffa was not there to ease my suffering. The hangover was back. And I felt like a bad flu had hold of me. I felt naked in a blizzard cold. I couldn't stop shaking. Speaking of dead, where was old Bones? I got no sense of his presence at all. That sparked a moment of panic wasted because I couldn't talk. The chaos in the house settled out without my input. Singe and Straffa went off to stalk the blonde. The delegation from Fire and Ice headed home after taking a moment to say goodbye. Crush told me, "You have great parties. Remember me for the next one." I couldn't say anything. I tried to wink. The effort was pathetic. I decided to send her a book. Miss T understood. She touched my cheek. She was more of a mom to Crush than Dee Dee was. Dee Dee was 100% self-involved. Mike thought my crowd would be better company than the folks Crush encountered in a sporting palace. I could not disagree with that. John's salvation and the bird took off. Bird would come back. The supply of spirits was unlimited and free. Uncle Oswald kept waiting for a coach that must have needed new wheels before it could leave the Tate compound. Kyra visited me. She didn't have much to say. After watching me shake and drool, she fled to Singe's office to baby her male kin. Dean appeared, armed with chicken soup. I could not imagine him being up so late. He considered me and Morley and found himself at a loss. His heart and mind were in the right place, but he was physically unable to follow through. I made some noise that, after years of seeing me come home tipsy, he understood. He's asleep. It took all he had to resist long enough for the rest of you to get busy. He tried to sound positive, but could not conceal the fact that he was extremely worried.
this was not a good time to lose the dead man.
Dean was still trying to figure out what to do when Tinny pushed him out of her way. She brought blankets and 2 of the heated stones Dean used to warm his feet during winter's bitterest nights. She was calm and businesslike. She placed the rag-wrapped stones against my chest and back, then buried me in blankets. She told Dean, "I can feed them." I tried to purr, managed to sound like I was choking on phlegm. Tinny made sure I wasn't, then focused on Morley. Dean said,
According to Mike, we lost Dotes the second the attack began.
"Typical." Dean was on nickname terms with Miss T after one exposure.
What about you, Tinny?
I'm still flustered, still not sure what's real. But I'll be all right. Worry about Penny instead.
Dean passed the soup. Tinny settled into the seat the rat women used to feed Morley. She blew steam off a spoonful of broth. Dean went off to help somebody else.
We have a world of things to talk about, Mousquando. Mostly concerning how my head has been working lately.
She got Morley to take some broth. Then she looked down at me. I wasn't shivering as badly. Her eyes were unreadable.
I saw things tonight that gave me a new perspective.
That did not sound good.
I promised you and the dead man. Well, I promised. I'll stick to that. General Block explained what it's all about.
I wondered what Block was up to, stirring the pot while drunk and angry. Tinny got some more broth into Morley.
I see that this has to be dealt with. There are only a few people who can handle things like it, and you're one.
Another spoon of soup.
I should be supporting you, not distracting you and holding you back.
That cost her. She had clamped down hard on her emotions. No doubt Strafa tending me in the street was in the front of her mind. That was a slice of reality she couldn't ignore. I couldn't say anything. I snuggled the rocks and tried to appear grateful. Penny came to the doorway. She looked as rocky as I felt. I'm going to leave now, Mr. Garrett. Please send for me when he's able to go back to works. I tried to tell her that I would.
He can't quite talk, yet. Shouldn't you just stay here? It would be safer. Tinny said.
Penny considered me, weighing the risk of being ravished against the certainty of safety and comfort. From behind her, Kyra said,
Stop worrying. Garrett is harmless. My aunt ought to be ashamed of the stuff she told you. It's because of her insecurities. He won't even look at this cross-eyed.
She posed. Oh, whoa. The mighty Garrett considered harmless by the young and the beautiful?
That is quite enough, Kyra. She's right, though. You are safe. There's an extra bedroom upstairs. Use that. Warn Dean so neither of you get any surprises. Go on. You need to stay close to good people right now.
Good people? What was this? That shock must have hit Tinny hard.
I'll show you.
And she knew how and why. Tinny looked like she had the same questions. Many interesting things must have happened here in my absence. Muted girl voices came from the kitchen. Dean definitely was exceeding the call of duty tonight. He should have been in bed hours ago.
Chapter 65. The woman tried hard to drown me, but I was too crafty. Whenever she shoved soup into my face, I swallowed it. It was Dean Creech Wonder Soup. Every spoonful hit bottom, then declared itself throughout my body. Energy came back fast, along with confidence and a sense of well-being. It wasn't long before I found my voice. Something I've been wanting to bring up all evening, darling. I never got to it because so much was going on. Wow, I made a miracle comeback. Almost as good as shaking that awful cold overnight. Though I hadn't really. A host of unpleasant symptoms were back now that old Bones was asleep. I could not help feeling uncomfortable about how my sidekick had begun operating without consultation. Strafa had put me away drowning in my own snot. Next morning the mess was gone and almost forgotten. Maybe old Bones didn't think I had time to be sick. Tinny developed a mild glower while I rambled through distracting thoughts.
Let's have it now, Squando. Good or bad, let's get to it.
I was nervous. When Penny and Kyra got upstairs, they would see that somebody had used that bed. The guilty flee where no man pursueth. We could see some interesting action when Strafa returned. All right. Here we go, before the good goes away and the mucus comes back. John Salvation has been bullying me to get you to act in his next play. He wants you bad. Did he talk to you about that?
He tried to talk to me about something, but I didn't pay attention, and he kept hemming and hawing.
The woman can have that effect on the male of the species. He has a new play about fairies. He wants you to be in it.
I'm done with that stuff.
Stated entirely without conviction, damned near begging to be talked into changing her mind.
I wasn't able to be that kind of woman's.
What you weren't able to do was stop being a self-involved pain in the ass. You were Tinny Tate to the third power. Had to be the soup. Something in the soup was worse than alcohol for loosening the tongue. Let's just say you wouldn't have put up with half of what you dished out if you'd been doing Salvation's job. Her mouth opened and closed. No words came out. She reminded me of a freshly caught trout, with distractions. Say better, a freshly caught mermaid. He wants you for the lead role, darling, and he's sure this will be his biggest play yet. Her eyes got huge. She drifted off into Fantasyland, hearkening to dreams she'd had before she alienated everybody.
Really?
Really. I tried to talk him out of it. He insists you're perfect. I bet he used you when he created the character, who you might not like much if you do get involved. Tinny had no patience with women who had quirks like hers. John Salvation had a reputation for drawing his characters from life and writing them true.
What?
What I'm saying is, we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. Not saying that what they see is any less subjective, but the way you were at the world.
Stop!
She did not carry the argument forward. I had unearthed ambitions my honey had kept hidden. She felt vulnerable, now. Maybe secretly ashamed. She knew she had been a jerk back when she got kicked out of that select pool of cuties who could act without having to entertain the punters in private after the show. She had been good, but her uncles never approved. She got all starry-eyed and lost in her imagination. Tinny?
I'm sorry, Malsquando. It's a lightning strike from a clear blue sky. He really said he wants me?
Like I told you, I think he used you to create the Fairy Queen. You wouldn't even have to act. You could just be you. As long as that you isn't the Tinny that got everybody so mad. She jumped up and down like she was Kyra's age.
I know what you mean. I learned my lesson. I'm not that Tinny anymore. Garrett, sweetheart, you know what this means?
It means you need to get together with the Remora and convince him that you aren't that Tinny anymore.
No, dumbhead. It means that if I don't mess this up, I can tell my uncles to go to hell. They can find somebody else to keep their damned books.
If Fina, though she hid it well, Tinny didn't like her life much. They'd have to pay somebody. She had been trying to be what they wanted her to be. I had suffered because she tried to make me into the man they thought she ought to have.
Yeah.
She had been trying to be what they wanted her to be. I had suffered because she tried to make me into the man they thought she ought to have.
If you're running some practical joke on me, Malsquando.
He's been trying to get hold of you for days. You wouldn't let him.
I thought... Never mind.
She bounced up and down again, and didn't turn sour when I suggested that she move into a better light so I could more fully appreciate the view. I was, for the moment, content. We were rolling along just the way we ought. Only one teensy gnat in the ointment. Old Bones and I needed to have a sit-down when he woke up. He needed to make his thinking clear. He was the serpent who could slither the deepest cesspits of the human mind. He could explain why he preferred Stropha Algarda to the woman who had been closest to me for an age. Kyra galloped in. I was sure she would want to know who had been using the guest room bed. Instead,
our coach is here.
It is way late. I need to get Uncle Oswald and Artifice home so they can be treated.
I struggled into a sitting position. We all need sleep. Kyra, can you see if Dean needs any help? He's got to be half dead by now. She went.
What about you?
I'll manage.
You need to rest too, but somebody has to let Singe in when she gets back.
Dollar Dan can handle that. The Rat Man was in Singe's office, staying out of the way.
That sorceress will be here too.
She might be, I admitted. Tinny took a first step in changing the rest of her life. She let that go. She didn't ask questions. She didn't try to manipulate me by telling me how much she trusted me. Old Bones had had some impact after all. Chapter 66. I didn't know when Singe and Stropha came back. They didn't bother to wake me up. I lay back down after Dollar Dan, the Tate women, and their coachman hauled Uncle Oswald and Artifice away. I was asleep before Dollar Dan locked up behind them. I slept on the floor. The Windwalker used my bed. Not only did I miss out on the temptation, I knew nothing about it till late next day. By then I was in a bad temper, fighting a terrible cold or incipient flu. I was surly with everybody. Singe had to be the pleasant face of the household to the rest of the world. I hurt all over, and Old Bones was asleep. But Playmate was awake, ambulatory, trying to help Dean. He looked a lot better, though the plan had been to keep him unconscious several days more. He had missed his doses of the stuff that had kept Morley down. Dotes was seated on the end of the cot. He moved gingerly when he moved at all. It hurt him to talk today. Him being upright brightened things a lot. He said,
I hope you feel better than you look.
I doubt it. I climbed onto the other end of the cot, which creaked but held. I told him about my latest brush with the darkness. Penny appeared with a stack of handkerchiefs. I suppressed the urge to grab her wrist and pull, keeping right on growing up. She offered a half curtsy, fled. Morley chuckled.
Time's been good to her. So you've made up.
Sort of. I don't know how long it'll last without old Bones cracking the whip. I heard Singe talking to somebody in the next room. Then somebody left the house. Singe joined us. I said, "You look frazzled. Did you get any sleep?"
Some. We had the usual luck. She sneezed.
You too? I offered a hanky. They lost you?
This is not a cold. It is a continuing reaction to something they used to stop me from following them. I did not stop to identify ingredients. I got away fast. The compound was designed to ruin my nose forever.
You're all right? I was concerned despite my own bad humor.
Straffa? She's all right too. I owe her. She pulled me back before I got a noseful. She brought me home. She just went back out. I don't know why.
You're suspicious?
Just a feeling. Probably mostly because she is so interested in you. I shouldn't distrust her for that. She is too simple to be evil.
That was an interesting notion. Morley drank it in without comment. I said, "I'm going to try to get up, now. I have some business that needs doing." I thought I ought. It had been a long night.
I'll get a chamber pot.
I lifted my butt 8 inches off the cot. Could not find the strength to get any higher. Then I realized that I didn't need to go as badly as I should. Morley grinned when he saw my frown deepen. Wait a minute.
The cleaning women took care of you too. You hardly groaned, and you definitely needed the works.
I faced a creative linguistics challenge but was too sluggish to manage more than an apathetic, dirty, rotten racklefrats. I did turn red.
It is just a job to them, Garrett. They said hardly anything, and you really needed it. You were a mess.
I used another handkerchief.
I will ask Dean to prepare a camphor breather.
She left. I blew some more and worried about how bad the cold would get once it got down into my chest. I was not looking forward to that. Chapter 67.
Do we have a plan?
We get us back in shape. Then we go find the people who hurt you.
A masterpiece of strategy and tactics.
It needs a little refinement.
That's the usual Garrett approach. Stomp around and break things.
It works.
I'm not sure why. I will stipulate that you still walk among us.
Dean and Playmate turned up. Playmate carried a clever little table that folded up flat. It had the amalgamated hallmark burned into a leg. Another Kip Pro's invention, no doubt. Playmate set it up. Dean deposited a tray featuring tea, dry toast, 2 bowls of soup, and the thing Singe called a breather. Fresh handkerchiefs accompanied that.
The younger Miss Tate sent us a half-dozen of these tables and some more fold-up chairs. Thoughtful of her. It was, truly.
He eyed me expectantly. So I thanked him for the table and tray. He left looking sour.
He was hoping you would clarify the direction you're headed emotionally.
Morley poured the tea. What?
They're all wondering the same thing, Garrett. I can see that, and I've been dead for a month.
I sipped tea, nibbled toast, downed a few spoons of soup, then suggested, "Clue me in," before I shoved my face into the inhaler device, which did not bear an amalgamated hallmark. It had been created right here in this house by Dean Creech. No doubt Kip Pros could polish it and make it a bestseller.
Everybody thinks Tinny has run her course, that you've started to show some spine, maybe because of this Straffa. They talk like she's your perfect woman's.
They? That can't be true. They can't know her well enough.
They wouldn't talk about it in front of you, and they do know Tinny.
They? Who? Dean and Singe?
Don't get excited. People care about you. They worry. They especially worry about how your decisions might affect their lives.
Another worry I didn't need. Let's get something straight. Do you think Straffa is better for me than Tinny is?
I haven't formed an opinion. I don't know the new woman except that she's scary and she's screaming gorgeous. Tinny I do know.
That didn't sound like a ringing endorsement. Meaning?
Tinny has some wonderful points, but with some of us she resonates like the remora does with you. You tolerate him because Winger is your friend. One could make a case for Tinny being a particularly sinister proof of Dotes' first law. Don't look at me like that.
It could be my fault.
That's the sinister part. She makes you think the problems are all your fault.
I muttered about us having to start recovery training, to avoid an inappropriate vent about him and Belinda. Then I wondered if I ought to poll my acquaintances for their opinions. Of a sudden I had a distinct feeling that I liked Tinny a lot more, and thought a lot better of her, than did most any acquaintance not named Tinny. They tolerated her because she came with me. Odd that. I was used to thinking that people tolerated me because I came with Tinny. Both views would be pure truth, depending where you are standing. That was not the dead man. His nibs continued snoozing. That was me imagining how old Bones would respond if I asked his opinion. I said, "Intellectually, I'm not feeling so good. I need time to get my mind right." Morley said nothing. He had no need. His expression told the tale. Garrett had had years to think. He had done his best to avoid that. Now he was caught in a cleft stick, with guilt twisting his arm up behind him. Sometimes procrastination can be a blessing, and sometimes not, with personal things. Time passing lets opportunities get away, and unresolved problems fester.
Really? Isn't your actual problem that you think too much?
Hard to argue with that. Everyone I ever knew accused me of that.
Let's get back to the plan.
It's coming along. Since neither of us can go dancing with the devils right now, we'll train till we are able.
I understand the theory, but your thinking is anachronistic. It made sense back when you dealt with stuff that didn't attract attention from generals and princes.
What he meant wasn't obscure, but I didn't get it.
You kept developing attachments, Garrett.
I don't follow.
In the beginning there was you, me sometimes, and a sleek new girl every couple of months, and Tinny in and out of your life. Then you started getting entangled. There was the brewery connection, then the Contigs.
He made a gesture meant to warn me against interrupting.
You got entangled with Block and Railway and Singe, and Kip and the whole inventory of Tateses.
I understood then. As life proceeded, I kept making persistent connections that created ever more complicated obligations. The hiatus under Tinny's thumbs hadn't shaken me free. People had expectations. I had expectations of my own.
All those entangling people will go right on doing what they do.
I wasn't sure what he meant, but he was gracious enough to go on crushing my grand strategy. That's what it added up to. Our problems existed for other people too. In this case, most everyone in the city. You put it that way, there's no point in us making plans.
Now you've got it.
I took another shot at getting up off the cot. This time I made it upright. A drooping Singe materialized before I took a second step.
Where are you going?
Upstairs, to bed.
You just woke up.
I coughed heartily. The cold was getting there. Ah, crap. You should get some sleep too.
Somebody has to run this circus, and I seem to be the only one who can stay awake.
Unfair. You didn't get the magical smackdown.
Nor did I, eyes wide shut, charge into what a 3-year-old dimwit could recognize as a deadly instrument.
She's got you there, Garrett.
A point. When I charge around overturning and busting things, sometimes it's me that gets overturned and busted. I would have been better off hanging back, throwing rocks. I picked up the breather. Show me what to do. What to do was take notes, for the dead man's delectation later, from people poking into things for us. Half of them I didn't know. Some I hadn't seen before. I had no idea how or when they had gotten hired. And they were, universally, boring, because they had nothing interesting to report. After the fourth I told Singe, "This is impossible. TunFaire can't possibly be that quiet. People can't still be that ignorant. There were witnesses out theirs."
Just means the powers that be kept the lid on, so far, probably by manufacturing clever stories. Gang warfare, ethnic strife, something like that. There, I'm caught up.
Nothing interesting happened for the rest of the day. Chapter 68. I did get to bed before sundown, never having taken a sip of beer. Dean had gone up right after supper. Singe didn't stay up much longer than I did. We left the house to Penny and Dollar Dan. I fell asleep snuggling with the breather and a mound of handkerchiefs. Singe had delivered a mug of fierce medicinal tea on her way to her repose. That put me under, fast. I wakened with the sun on the rise, and I was not alone. Straffa was spooned up against me as though she had been there every night for years. She was leaner and warmer than what I was accustomed to. I was startled, but only for a moment. Where else could she stay? The other beds were taken. I moved slightly. She adjusted too. My right hand discovered something smaller and more firm than what I anticipated. I cupped it. She pushed against my hand and made a little sound of contentment. I slipped back into nod. She was purring. When next I wakened, I was on my back. Straffa's head was on my chest, over my heart. She was against me tightly, all the way down. Her hand was on my belly, thumb resting on my navel. It all seemed perfectly reasonable. My heartbeat quickened. That wakened Straffa, slightly. Her hand drifted. I squeaked. She purred but granted a stay after brief exploration. She wrapped that arm around me, over my right shoulder, pulled herself even closer, half on top, purred some more, and went back to sleep. Singe awakened us. She showed no attitude.
You won't have time to eat if you don't get moving.
She grabbed my used handkerchiefs.
I'll get these washed. They're fresh downstairs.
Her nose twitched, no doubt telling her what she wanted to know.
The dead man is still asleep. General Block should be here in about an hour. His message didn't say why. Otherwise, there is no news.
Straffa untangled herself from the bedding while Singe talked, exposing my nakedness. No surprise to Singe. She knows I sleep raw. But Straffa was equally bare and not the least self-conscious. Singe's nose twitched some more. She said nothing. Her season was no longer causing completely tormenting emotions. She collected the breather.
I'll have Dean recharge this. Thanks.
I did not look at her. I could not stop staring at Straffa, who was digging in a trunk that hadn't been against the west wall when I went to bed. The door shut behind Singe. Straffa looked at me, now sitting on the edge of the bed.
You're having naughty thoughts. I can tell.
Oh yeah. She came to me, pushed me back, straddled me.
Now or wait till tonight?
I was no moral hero. I was no faithful lover. Had the name Tinny Tate come up just then, my best response would have been, who? I couldn't talk. My brains were scrambled. The woman had found her way deep inside my head. She had established emotional colonies. There was no way to drive her out. I couldn't come up with an answer, so Straffa allowed herself the luxury of deciding for me. As far as she was concerned, the issue never was if, but when. Chapter 69. I was still distracted when we reached the kitchen. Kind old Dean served breakfast despite the time. He was in a fine mood. Morley shuffled in. He checked us out, smirked, but never said a word. Penny appeared as Dean set a plate in front of Morley. She sniffed as she settled into the last chair. She gave Straffa a dark look but didn't say anything either. Playmate stuck his head in. Anything I can do, Dean? While he eyeballed me and Straffa.
You could grab a hammer, some nails, and some boards, and add on to my kitchen. Otherwise, no. We can't squeeze another body in.
It wasn't that crowded, though nobody would be able to move if Playmate put himself on our side of the door. I asked, Dean, who all is here? Besides who all I can see right now.
Singe. Some of John Stretch's people. That creature who calls himself the Bird.
Bird came to paint. His honor is napping, though. So Bird is silencing his voices instead. That was about the longest speech she'd ever made in my presence. She sounded disconsolate. I risked panicking her. What do you think about him, Penny? Does he really hear voices? She made herself reply,
her voice tiny as she did so. Yes, he hears them. And not just because he's crazy. They're real. He let me talk to them while we were working. Kitchen business stopped. Penny shrank under the pressure of curious eyes. The dead man thinks the bird belongs in the crazy ward at the Bledsoes. His Honor can't hear the voices. He only hears Bird's answers, if Bird does answer. Mostly he just takes another drink. How did you talk to the voices then? Bird told me what they said. They heard me when I answered. Dean rested a reassuring hand on Penny's shoulder.
You'll be all right.
I didn't get the girl. 3 years ago, she had been hell on wheels, acting in her role as high priestess of a screwball country cult, hiding out from religious enemies. But she'd always been pathologically shy around me, which, as Kyra had told her, was totally Tinny's fault. I asked, "You talked to them?" "Sure." I blew my nose. How did that work? Bird just lets the voice take over. Then I talk to the ghost. It doesn't last long. Bird only lets them talk so people will know he's telling the truth. I made myself stay calm. I had to keep the intensity down. Penny would trample Playmate trying to get away if I tripped her panic response. I'd sure like to see that. Penny did not volunteer to arrange it. Who do the voices belong to? Dead people. People who were murdered. Awful people, mostly. I once spent time in a relationship with a woman who had been murdered when I was a child. I met her ghost as an adult. I had no trouble with Penny's notion. Do tell. Tell what? That the ones I talked to sounded like they got what they had coming? That's what drives Bird crazy. He has these whiny haunts, who deserved what they got, insisting that he do things for them. I've got it. Not only did the bird have to deal with ghosts, his spooks belong to that select crew who think they are more special than anyone else and should get special treatment always, in the main because they survived childbirth. In TunFaire, these leeches tend to come to a bad end early, though their survivability has improved since the war's end. Once upon a time, the body politic shed its parasites in the cauldron of the Cantard. They could be counted on to get themselves killed. The war had had its fierce egalitarian side. There had been no buying out of it, though the clever had been able to wrangle less risky assignments. Princes and paupers, everyone took his dip in the deadly pond. Old folks were nostalgic for the days when the war kept the streets clear of loud, badly behaved, sometimes dangerous young men. Mr. Garrett? I'm sorry. Having an old man's moment. You're used to old bones. Can he fix the bird's brain so he doesn't hear those people? I don't think Bird would want that. He hates the voices. But if they aren't pestering him and he doesn't drink, he can't paint. Then she asked, "How long do you think His Honor will sleep?" I've never figured the formula out. You'd do better to ask Singe. What should I do since he's not awake? What would you be doing if you weren't hunkered down here? Stuff. I don't know. Dean and Singe both say I shouldn't leave. Those bad people might want to get hold of someone from this house. Dean is a wise man. Why don't you help him? These past few days have been hard for him, and you can help Singe if she needs it. I'm going to go bug her myself, right now. Everyone bailed when I did. Penny stayed with Dean. I saw no enthusiasm in either of them. Singe was writing something using an amalgamated steel-tip quill. The dead man's pet girl says she talks to the ghosts that haunt the drunken artist.
Take him along next time you dance with the dead men. Turn them around on their mistress.
I'll run it past old Bones when he wakes up. I have some questions for you.
Blow your nose first. That sniffling is disgusting.
I took care of that, and coughed up some stuff besides. Did anyone trace the giant bottles and glass vats from that warehouse?
Not that I know of. The director and the guard aren't keeping me in the loop. I didn't think to ask last time the general was here. Speaking of whom, he's late. No one else tells me anything useful either, including your new wrestling partner.
You're leaping to conclusions. What did Old Bones get out of those villains that Block loaned us?
He didn't say, officially, unofficially, what I expected. Nothing that we didn't already know. They were day labor.
Has anyone found out anything useful?
Not yet. You would think the resurrection men at least could be found. Are you bored? I'm not here to entertain you. I have work to do.
Hokum. I suspected that she was crabby because her body was disgruntled because she had not mated successfully during her season. I had another question, the most important one, but I can't remember what it was. Wait, here it is. Old Bones had me chase Railway the other day to tell him about men who were watching the house. Did Railway bother to let us know who they were?
Not officially.
Unofficially.
General Block was informed that they belonged to the King's Household Lifeguard, the Palace Guard. He wasn't convinced. He thought they were really private police from the hill.
Either possibility was disturbing. I didn't want to attract attention from either direction. Not good.
But maybe an indication that powerful people take the situation seriously.
I started to say something.
If all you can do is chatter, take the woman back upstairs or go frighten Penny. I'm busy.
Ah, you're no fun anymore.
That's all your fault. Out.
Chapter 70. I got the last laugh. Someone used the knocker as I exited Singe's office. I employed the peephole, saw a fierce green eye glaring back. I opened up.
I brought some people for you to talk to. You could maybe break this one's leg for me while you're at it.
Kyra. She had a death grip on Kip Prose's left arm. Kip appeared to be shackled to Caven's Elgarda with an invisible chain. Caven's looked like she wanted to fight, but didn't know who to hit first. Kip had that numb look men get when they have hold of a Tate woman with her mind made up. You did indeed, and I'm most pleasantly surprised. How are you, Kip? We don't see much of you at the manufactory anymore. And yourself, miss? I would not mention her mother or how Straffa worried. No point throwing naphtha on the drama. No real need for the fancy headgear, guys. His nibs has been out cold since the other night. But wear them if that makes you comfortable. Let's go into Singe's office. Singe greeted my return with a bloody look that evaporated once she saw the kids. She got up.
I'll tell Dean we have more guests. Garrett, shall I make sure you aren't disturbed by the others?
That would make these three more comfortable.
I told them about what's going on and how your place is like a madhouse.
It's getting better. We've got only 6 or 7 extra bodies here today. One of those, Penny, arrived with tea and a heap of the cookies that Dean always brought out when young people visit. Cookies I could never find when I wanted to nick 1 or 3 for myself. Penny offered Kip and Cavens a polite smile. She had a warmer look for Kyra. When she left, Kyra told me.
That's who you should be chasing, Garrett. She's quiet, submissive, and young enough for you to train up right.
I'll wait a while, at least till she stops peeing herself every time I look at her. Kip was not in a social mood. He isn't happy when life intrudes. Kyra says there's stuff we need to talk about. Yeah, Cavens especially. You heard any rumors about strange stuff going on? In TunFaire, you're kidding. But he spoke without passion and nodded in concert with Cavens as he did. You probably heard it wrong, except from Kyra, who was here. Kip and Cavens both nodded. They were nervous, but I sensed no guilt nor any defensive attitude. Bad things have been happening. People are trying to cover up. Others are putting out false reports. The whole thing could get ugly in a few days. I told them almost everything, de-emphasizing the role of the Windwalker. Cavens showed no particular emotion when I mentioned her mother. Singe returned moments after Penny left. She took notes. Penny returned to the doorway. She wasn't sneaking, so she wasn't exactly eavesdropping. Penny, would you get your sketches and Bird's portrait, please? That's ugly stuff, Garrett. Kyra must have sugared it. She's an amazing girl, Kip. I know. I have an awful time remembering that she isn't my imagination running wild. Kyra was pleased. Cavens was not, though she was not strictly a romantic rival. She and Kip strove to maintain that frog's fur rare boy-girl relationship where they were just good friends. Cavens was, I noted belatedly, wearing girl clothes. She always dressed as a boy, before. She looked good as a girl, but she didn't look nearly as good as that wicked woman in black leather. Penny brought the sketches and painting. Singe held the latter up while Penny handled her own work. Anybody recognize anyone? I asked.
Is my mother still here?
I glanced at Kyra. Butter wouldn't melt. Then to Singe. Miss Pular, would the Windwalker still be with us? Singe responded a grim rat glower. She may be. It's hard to say for sure. She keeps flitting in and out of the upstairs windows. I said, why do you ask, Cavens?
I wondered if she's seen these.
I don't know. Has she, Singe? Singe had a grand opportunity to be lethally catty. She let it pass.
Probably not. She will not go into the dead man's rooms.
Penny agreed with Singe, though we three all knew that she had seen the artwork. I saw Kyra doing math based on the fact that Penny Dreadful had moved into the guest room while Furious Tide of Light was staying here too. I concentrated on Cavens. Kyra did not let the completed equation affect her attitude. Singe saw what I saw. She would have smirked and sneered if nature had equipped her for it.
Life gets more complicated every day, doesn't it?
Kip and Cavens thought that was directed toward them.
Kip and I are just friends. We challenge each other to think. There isn't anything else going on, really.
Kyra did not appear to be reassured. I thought the fact that Cavens needed to say anything might reveal something about what was going on inside her head. I was fairly certain that in the past the relationship had been friendship, with special benefits as two incredibly bright but socially inept kids struggled through the turbulence of puberty. Whatever, these days Kip trudged along in his mentor's trace, essentially oblivious. Kip's mentor took a chance and changed the subject. Your mother is desperately frightened for you, Cavens. The specials turned up what looks like evidence involving you in this new wickedness. She did a wonderful job of looking unpleasantly surprised. I told her what Singe and the Windwalker had found in Elftown. Singe kicked in points I overlooked. I wished the dead man was awake to sift the secrets I was stirring off the streambed of Cavens' mind. They found your stuffed bear and some other things. Then I went fishing. Those hairnets don't work anymore. Kip squeaked like I had stepped on his toes. That can't be. It can. Old Bones can adapt when he has time to think. The point I want to make is, you can't hide from his nibs anymore. Penny sneered and looked me in the eye when she did. Kip looked like he wanted to panic. Cavens was less rattled. Singe gave me an unhappy glare, thinking I had just wasted valuable household advantages.
That sounds like where I hid out after we had the bug problem. I lived there almost a year.
Kip jumped in with a pretty good description of the place. Obviously he had visited. That won no points over on the red-headed girlfriend's side. The red-headed girlfriend had not known. Kyra didn't say anything, but it was plain she was more comfortable with her aunt's man having female friends than she was facing that situation herself. Kip's mouth ran. He didn't have a clue. Cavens and Kip being friends would offer Kyra no comfort, ever. So you don't know these people?
No.
Cavens sounded definite. Kip shook his head. He was less certain. I think I would remember her. That got him punched from both sides.
I think I've seen the girl before. She was out front the other night. I know, I only got a glimpse then. She looked like bad news.
She was. I learned the hard way. Kyra nodded at Penny's drawings.
I mean bad news because she looks like one of those blondes who has gotten anything she ever wanted handed to her since she sprouted a set of knockers.
That was harsh, and a touch hypocritical. Kyra Tate had been one of those girls till she developed the mental defect that bonded her to Kip.
I might have seen this one when I was about 12. Some older girls were teasing me about still being flat.
Some pink behind the freckles on the cheeks there.
The ringleader was 16 or 17 and very blessed. This looks like her. Sort of.
Sounded like a long shot. You should go over that with the dead man sometime, figure out the time and place, work outward from there. Singe made a note. Old Bones could sort that out in seconds.
If you think it's worth it, I can probably figure it out. I have a good memory for people who misuse me.
I hoped Kip heard that. His sins, though, would be of omission, not commission. If he messed up with Kyra, it would be out of blind ignorance. I told all the youngsters, let's look at the man. He may be the boss of the Resurrection Men. Any of you know anything about him? No, still, though I'm sure Caven saw the resemblance to Barate Algarda. She kept sneaking looks. Another hope dashed. Caven's. Kip. Please talk to me about the warehouse in Elftown. Kyra eyed Kip in a way that made it plain she wanted to hear more too. Caven's was getting tired of all this.
I hid out there for a year. I told you. I left when I stopped feeling like I had to hide.
I'm not interested in that. But why hide there? That's a far piece for a kid off the hill.
I'd been there before. With my grandmother. She owned it. It was empty and starting to fall apart. I think she sold it, but nobody ever used it.
I worked some calculations. Straffa had borne Caven's at a very young age. Straffa's mother had died when Straffa was a child. I had met her ghost. Caven's must have been talking about Barate Algarda's mother. Anything unusual happen while you were there?
Nothing to do with what you're fussing about.
Kip backed her up. I used to smuggle food and stuff. It was all sad for a while. Singe, make a note to ask the general if his forensic sorcerers went over that warehouse, and what they found out about the glasswares.
You asked already. He told you he got warned off.
Even so, he and Railway haven't really backed off. If they could blame the poking around on us, they'd be even happier.
We should not be discussing that right now.
No, I should be jumping all over the youngsters. They were gaining confidence as they grew more certain that the dead man was sleeping. The look I sent Singe was one of appeal. I had emptied my toolbox when it came to interrogating kids. Singe understood. She left her desk. She left the room. A moment later, Morley appeared, assisted by Penny. He settled onto a folding chair. He stared at Caven's from the side. He is better than I am at reading females. Dollar Dan, who must have been in the kitchen with Dean, filled up the doorway. He could be amazingly intimidating when he wanted. But he wasn't the onager Singe meant to bring to bear.